Welcome to Advantage in Paradise. No, Adrift in Aldhalor is what we call this show.
Whoops.
Welcome to Adrift in Aldhalor, our weekly actual play D&D game set in our homebrew world of Aradun, or as some call it, Arden. Our music is licensed through musicbed.com, and we occasionally use TabletopAudio for our ambience, and then occasionally Syrinscape as well. But I'm bringing Shannon in for any announcements or partners plugs.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Hello, friends. Happy Monday. Let's do this. I'm gonna start with Underground Oracle Publishing.
Whoa.
They are a best. Whoa. Or as if you're my 2-year-old, anytime he's on the stairs, he goes, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Really?
Yeah, it's really cute.
Sounds like a skill issue.
Underground Oracle is a best-selling, any-nominated TTRPG publisher building new and exciting settings for the cipher system of every genre you can imagine. Each setting includes everything you need to explore its unique world, including lore, species descriptors, foci, creatures, ciphers, artifacts, and all of the rules that you need to play. For as little as $3, you can join their Patreon and help shape each of the worlds that they create. Next, we have Eddie Yorke. He is our wonderful character artist. He's an illustrator based in the UK who makes art for games and books. To visit his portfolio and get in contact with him, visit eyorke.com. Last but not least, we've got 1985 Games. They create affordable, accessible, high-quality accessories for D&D and other TTRPGs. Sean has used their NPC cards throughout the 87 episodes. We're about to play 88. Wild. Episodes of this campaign, and they're pretty great and have brought some awesome characters into our game. So if you'd like to pick those up or find something else that they have, because they have awesome stuff, use the code Paradise Pride. Oh my goodness gracious, excuse me, for 10% off your entire order. It's very warm in this room right now, which is making me very sleepy.
Wake up.
Yeah. Okay.
A little bit of makeup.
The VODs are nearly up to date. The one from last week is currently processing and will be available tomorrow, January 21st. I just did that before we started here.
Nice.
Yeah. And then you can just join us on all socials. Just Google Paradice, or Google search Paradice, Paradice. See there, like a pair of dice.
That's right. That's
and
our
we're on all the socials. So come find us.
Yeah. Good job, Shannon.
Thanks. I'm gonna turn the fan on, see if that gets some air moving.
Right.
You need caffeine. It solves all wounds.
I had soda with dinner. Also, I'm not supposed to have a ton of caffeine. That's prego.
Oh, that's right. There's a baby.
There's a baby. There's a baby.
They've been telling me I shouldn't be drinking so much caffeine all my life. You're fine.
Alrighty. Well, with that in mind...
Start them young.
Exactly, yeah. Let's jump into our recap. All right. And there it is. So, last we left off, Iron and Mana had completed their long rest. Well, before they completed their long rest, there was a little visit to Shannon in her dreams. She was visited by none other than Ro, who she was expecting to visit, but not sure when it would happen. He conveniently chose as soon as she lost her powers with her previous patron, as she did wake up on what is ostensibly his old ship from when he was a mortal man. And he proceeded to offer her power in exchange for her necklace that was her symbol of her pact with her last patron, and future favors, specifically those that have to do with getting him out of the hells in some fashion. He at first called it or insinuated that some sort of race has begun that he intends to win. Those sort of the stipulations of his desire to get out of hell. Saskia, in a vulnerable state, not having any of her powers and not wanting to lose out on adventuring with her friends and being left in this shoddy town in the middle of a winter hellscape, accepted these powers. Now, Ro did promise her that he would attempt to get her name and memories back if it was within his powers, and that they would be partners. You can choose to put air quotes around that if you want. But he specifically promised her that she would be able to leave the arrangement whenever she wanted. I will remind you all that several sessions ago, following a visit from Ro, a little impish accountant did come looking for the unauthorized pact that was potentially happening. So just putting that out there.
Why would you bring that up?
Just saying, Ro tends to do illegal things in the Hells, a land of law. But anyway, as a reward or perhaps a celebration of this pact, Ro gave Saskia a new set of armor that gives her a swimming speed boost, allows her to breathe underwater, and allows her to cast control water once a day, as well as is half plate and does not impose disadvantage or affect proficiency. So, armor she can wear, and that gives her some of her old powers back that she actually had lost in the 2024 5e update. But she is wearing this fresh armor upon waking up, and the party, of course, notices and says, "What the hell, Saskia?" Saskia lies immediately and says that she made peace with her old patron by apologizing and was given this armor. Some folks in the party pretty much accept it at that point. Others question it, thinking, why would she do that? Why would the patron do that? Jacquette particularly does not believe her, especially when he sniffs around and catches the whiff of brimstone and hell. With just a little bit of pressure, Saskia immediately tells the truth, saying that she lied to them. And the party takes this badly, I would say, for Saskia. She not only lied to them, but engaged in a pact with someone that they all, for the most part, said we should not trust. Specifically, Septimus and Bruce were particularly impacted and told Saskia it will take time to rebuild that trust, but that they can't really completely trust her anymore. Fyrn disagrees with her choices, but ultimately respects her as a warrior. Jacquette probably is simultaneously disappointed and impressed, maybe. I don't know. He's hard to read, but he is upset that she made this choice. Saskia attempts to defend herself by saying that she lost her powers and that she didn't want to be left behind. But the party still says that it was an unnecessary risk to take and that they would have figured something out so that she could keep adventuring with them. So there is some restoration of trust that'll be necessary, which hopefully will be helped by Ro's other expectation of Saskia, which is to not abandon the party and also to be nicer to them, essentially. Or really to not suspect the worst of them, was kind of the specific way he put it. Don't immediately assume that they are going to leave you behind, that they're making choices that are negative, or that they don't appreciate her power. In Saskia's words, don't be a sassy Sassy bitch? Was that what you said?
Judgy
Bitch. Judgy bitch. That's what Saskia clarified when she made the agreement. Perhaps to Saskia's benefit, Baron interrupted this uncomfortable moment. Brought the party fresh food and drink, and let in the sunshine. As he opened the door, you all saw that it is no longer blizzarding outside. It's no longer a blackout, and it's actually quite a nice day for such a wintry hellscape. It's still dark, of course, because of the eclipse and the gloaming, but it is a bit warmer and a bit brighter than the last week. The party proceeds to collect some goods that they wanted to purchase, potions, antitoxins, trading in some goods for blessed wort, and the next thing they planned on doing was going to the Green Grave to meet up with Leon to acquire the axebeaks he was going to procure for you. So, Iron and Mana, you are about town right now. You are, I imagine, leaving the Hag's Hovel, where you just acquired some blessed wort. Perhaps you're all meeting up now together on the road to the Green Grave. Just pull up. So, you know the way there because you passed by when you were delivering blessed wort to Leon, the captain of the militia that you met on the first day here. You maybe didn't get to see a lot of the features of this space because it was covered in snow, and you were more preoccupied with the horrifying, strangely shaped wraith with the many arms that was hovering in its branches. But upon arriving, you can see that there are some very old-looking graves. You specifically see Leon going from grave to grave to grave, cleaning the snow off of them, and also unwrapping a part of the graves themselves. So all of the gravestones are kind of like obelisks. They're not massive, but they're probably around 6 feet tall. Some of them have religious iconography based on the Green Knight that died there. Some of them you see crescent moons on. Some of them you see other spiritual artifacts. But they all have a small metal rod sticking out of the top of the obelisk where you can see Leon is unfurling or unwrapping these really faded green cloaks. In that each of the people buried here was a Green Knight of the Order of the Green Knights, and that they keep their cloaks there, almost like flags over their graves. When there's a blackout, they wrap them up, protect them from the snow, and then clean them off and dutifully tend to them. Notably, Leon does not have a green cloak. He has an orange cloak. He is not... in the words of the Green Knights, he didn't earn his cloak before. There was no Green Knights left here. Perpetually an apprentice is what you could infer from this. It's a lot nicer in here when there's not a scary wraith hovering above you. But Leon sees you all at the vestibule because there's a very simple palisade wall around the graveyard with just a double doors, no like gatehouse. But they are open for visitors. And also some of these graves do have sort of a full tomb for a few of them, which you might suspect are particularly heroic Green Knights that pass through this region. But Leon sees you all and kind of waves you down to come on over. In the back of this area where you had seen Leon come out originally is a much larger lodge, which is probably where he and Diadrin, the other Green Grave representative, live. And behind it, you imagine, is where the stables are with the axebeaks. Over here! Come! We've got a flock for you to choose from. I judge that you all are happy to see the sun.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Too dark for too long. I mean no disrespect, but I can see why folks don't visit too often.
Well, hopefully that'll change. So, come along. He takes you into the back where you can see there are quite a few of these axebeaks, and it's actually much larger than you expected from looking at the front. There's a whole sort of field back here. There are stables, but then you can see like a training field, essentially, where this Diodrin fellow that he mentioned literally trains axebeaks. So you can see there's actually like a makeshift pond there that's frozen over to train them how to walk on ice and have kind of that situational awareness with a person mounted on their backs. You can see there's a few like literal just like obstacles, like little jumping markers and whatnot. And you can actually see there's a full attachment to the stables where you can see several leather goods hanging, where you can see some barding. You can see some packs, basically anything you would ever need to put on a mount, designed and built specifically for an axebeak versus a horse. So they also make their own accessories for them.
What about like goggles or like blinders?
Yeah, and honestly, literally anything that you would buy for a horse mount, there is the version of it for axebeaks here.
Nice.
You actually can see some of these axebeaks running around in the field. They seem to roughhouse a little bit with each other now that they're out of the stables, because they were stuck in the stables for a week. You can see a lot of them stretching their legs. You see one immediately kind of goes up to the pond and just slams its axebeak into the ice, cracking it. And then you can see this long tongue comes out as it just starts to drink the cold water. And you can see a few of them ramming into each other with their axebeak faces. There seems to be some displays of aggression between some of them. While others are lounging around, you can see one that's literally just like rolling around like a dog in the snow. But these are birds that are bred for or have evolved for a cold climate. So they actually like to be in the snow.
Yeah, I'd like to like, kind of just like separate myself from the conversation and start, really intently watching the axebeaks to try and figure out which one is the healthiest, strongest, looks like he would be like the toughest in a fight.
Yeah, totally.
Axebeak. So yeah, I'm just gonna like examine them for a while.
Conversely, I'm looking for one that is got like rumpled feathers. Maybe it's the one rolling around like a dog. One that's like maybe not really following directions, but needs a little TLC.
Yeah. For everyone's reference, they come in a variety of colored feathers. And you can definitely like Fyrn, you can definitely see that some are bulkier than others. Like there might be some that are more lithe, more dexterous, and others that are stronger. You can see like there's different like idiosyncrasies to their beaks as well, where some of them have like a full like massive like great axe sized beak versus others that are a little bit more hatchet like. They have feathers that range from these like really like deep dark almost gray purple to some that are like pretty flamboyant, actually have like green and turquoise feathers or bright crimson to purple feathers to some that are just all white feathers. There's a pretty distinct variety of plumage, we'll say, alongside the distinct shapes of them. Sass, the one rolling around in the snow, you can see it does roll around and its tongue flops out of its beak as it's staring up in the air, and you can see it has kind of a lazy eye in one of the eyes. And its feathers are not well taken care of in the sense that it doesn't have particularly good personal groomage. As you can also see some of them tending to their feathers with their beaks. And it also is like disjointed in its colored plumage. Like it has like a little too much green with purple and a little bit of just brown. It's not really like it's almost peacock in that way, but not as pretty.
I want that one.
You can see coming out of the workshop, the leather workshop, you can see this absolute unit of a dragonborn. Like he is sturdy. He almost is like thick like a dwarf in his skins. You almost mistake him for a turtle at first because of how big he is and how large his muscles and tail is. He is a white scaled dragonborn, probably about 7 feet tall. And his like legs are thick and his hands, like this is a big guy. He wears a similar orange cloak to Leon. And he has some of his scales are exposed, but for the most part he's wearing winter clothes. He has a really wide snout for a dragonborn. And a very large like chin with several jagged kind of like spikes coming off of it, as well as some tendrils like hair coming down the sides, as he just comes out and sort of like as he just sort of makes that noise. Several of the axebeaks come running up to him, as you can see him carrying a sack, and he just starts throwing grains out at them.
So he can speak axebeak is what we determined.
Yes, he and it comes out as Victorian English gruffage. But it is a little bit more like lizard-like draconic than I'm able to do with my human larynx. But you see Leon waves at him. He's out in the fields with them, and he looks to you all, and he's just, "That is Diadrin. I call him the White Drake. He stays here with me, and he trains each of the axebeaks personally. He's the person to talk to. I already told him that you'd want a couple of axebeaks for your journey, and in exchange for the good works that you did, saving our town. Free of charge, of course."
Perfect.
Good.
The only thing we ask is if they don't return with you, if you could potentially help us in compensating for them. But there'll be no charge if you could bring them back.
Don't worry, my friend. We'll be sure to bring them back. Jacquet says, then looking to Bruce like, get it? Because you have that teleportation scroll and we're definitely not coming back here.
Bruce is just gonna whoop.
It's gonna be a Bill the Pony situation where you just let them go and they know their way back home.
Sorry, Bill the Pony went on to like master all the wild horses. He's the new Shadowfax.
That is true. So, Fyrn, if you want, you can give me a perception check to sort of analyze these to see if you can find the one that fits you.
What about a nature check, Sean?
You could do that too. I'm fine with that as well.
Sean, can I do a performance check to see? No, just kidding. Which one comes up
Jacquet
to
gets out
Jacquet?
there and he's just like, oh, doing a little dance to attract one.
Yeah.
Take out your little hand drums.
Yeah.
That's when Diadrin comes over and goes, "This one thinks he's his mate now."
Oh no.
I got
That's
a
how
14.
Jacquet married an axebeak. Did you say you got a 14?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's hard to, with a 14, you can roughly gauge the strengths of them. But I think equates to ultimately Fyrn going, this one is the biggest one.
But I mean, like, I can do things to modify that if it actually is a fail.
It's not a failure. No, you identify the biggest and strongest one, for sure.
That's all I wanted.
It may have other weaknesses, so like it might not be as quick. It might require more food. But
yeah, I mean, I was going hard for endurance. That was what I was looking for. So,
and this guy
sounds
is
good to
perfect.
me.
You can see it has that deep, dark, almost black purple feather plumage, with these very striking amber colored eyes, and the beak on this thing. It looks like it could easily decapitate like a young dragon.
Damn.
And it's like the beak is like so like weathered that it almost looks like it's made of stone. So you can keep your eyes
Does it
on
look
that
like
one.
you could take out an undead dragon?
Maybe. But anyway, Deodran comes over finally after he's done feeding this flock. As he kind of like saunters over, he looks to you all and says, "So, you're the adventurers that have saved our town. Saved Leon here's head from those trolls."
That's us, Iron and Mana, at your service.
Have any of you ever ridden an axebeak before?
Have I, Sean?
I was about to ask the same question.
Septimus, unlikely. There's not really an axebeak population in Asia.
Okay.
There's more. They're more traditional horse community.
Just curious.
Fyrn, there are axebeaks in the north where you're from. And I leave it up to you if you've ever ridden one.
Yeah, I would say that I probably have, but I also did it at a younger age. And I would also imagine that the axebeaks from where I am are slightly different.
Yeah.
Like perhaps they're a little furrier, you know, more like maybe they've there's a lot more predators, so they've actually become slower and bulkier. To basically, instead of running away, they're more like aggressive and like, you know, defend their flock, and they like to herd together, you know, and like you know, use pack tactics to protect their young, sort of thing. So these like the only one that looks similar to the ones that I remember is probably the one that I picked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the axebeaks you're used to are a little bit more wild than these ones.
I imagine I wasn't very good at riding them. Like I probably had one that was trained, and I was a young kid, and I was trying to be brash, and like took a couple of tries before I could actually like, you know, manage it. And I would you know, hold my hand up in front of Daedrin and say, "I have a little experience, but your flock is of a caliber I've never seen before."
Well, excellent. You will be our display. What's your name?
Oh, this should be good.
They call me White Eye.
White Eye, excellent. White Eye, come over here. Stand right here.
I do that.
And then he holds his hand out and he says, "Pick your beast."
Immediately point to the big one.
Ah, excellent. And then you can see he immediately kind of he pulls out a whistle that is on a necklace. You can see he puts his fingers over the holes in this particular formation and blows it. It's very high pitched, almost to the point where it's like awkward the way that you hear it. If anything, Bruce, it's the most like effective on you for some reason.
Because he's an animal.
Because you're dragon kind, and dragon kind like dinosaurs.
So are you.
Somewhat related to birds. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Jacques, it might be a little hurt your ears a little bit too. But you see that axebeak immediately, his head goes up and it starts coming over, and like you guys have seen Jurassic Park. These things walk absolutely like the raptors, the velociraptors. There's just sort of like this like, yeah, exactly, lanky movement to them. It's definitely going to be something to get used to riding compared to a horse, for those of you who've ridden a horse. But it does like furl its feathers out really big as it approaches. And once it's close up, you can see how big this guy really is.
He's huge.
He's very big. Like heads over Fyrn, as the neck is fully elongated out. And you can hear this immediate trilling of the bill of the beak. Very much like a what are those terrifying
Maracas?
birds that shoebill, like a shoebill.
Did you say?
He said, "Did you say a maraca, like the instrument?"
Yeah, like
That's what I heard too. What the fuck?
That's what I heard.
No, it's more of a rapid snapping that has a very percussive trait to it. It is
what are those little clappy instruments called?
Castanets?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
That's what I always imagined Jaquette actually having, instead of little hand drums.
That's actually really funny.
Well, if I was a better player, I would have picked that. I'm sorry.
All right, White Eye. You've experience with axebeaks. Everybody, for your protection, we'll have your somewhat trained companion show you how to do this. Fyrn. You didn't say your White Eye. White Eye. You know what to do, right?
Sure. If I try using my knowledge from a long time ago, like I'm just trying to retain basically the abilities that somebody was trying to drill into my head and I wasn't paying attention too hard.
Yeah. You can go ahead and give me an animal handling check.
Yeah. Okay.
This animal handling check will also somewhat be a refresher in your mind of what you're supposed to do.
So, I got a 3, but things I can do, Sean.
What
There
can
are
you do?
things he can do.
Things he can do. There are things he can do.
So, the first one would be the thing where I could add 10 to an ability check, which is probably what I'm gonna need. Where is that? I'm sorry, it's been a while since I had to use any of these.
Is it a fighter feature?
Indomitable?
It's a fighter feature. Okay, so that's only for saving throws,
saving
so that
throws.
doesn't work. But I can still use the tactical master thing,
Oh.
which is I can expend a second wind, and I can add something to it. I think it's a D6, maybe?
Isn't it
Tactical
your
shift.
second win?
Wait, nope, that's a different.
D10 to the ability check. If
Yeah.
it still fails, the
Tactical
second wind
minds.
isn't expended.
Okay. So go ahead and roll me a D10 to add to your 3. You said.
Yes. I got a 10!
Wow.
Okay.
13!
Okay, so that is significantly better than the 3. So, Fyrn, you go to do what is traditional to try to create a relationship with an axebeak, which is very respectfully bowing to the axebeak. and maintaining eye contact. It's actually where
Yes, hippogriff rules.
Hippogriff rules, exactly.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
You actually break eye contact for a second, and then your tactical mind shifts in, and you remember, no, that will cause this thing to view me as not a respected rider, but something that it could beat up, and something submissive. So with that 13, the axebeak is not immediately respectful of you. There's a challenge that happens. So you see, as you kind of are in the bow, the axebeak furls its feathers out to make itself bigger, flaps its wings, and its head kind of extends as high as it possibly can. Honestly, almost like an executioner holding up a big axe about to come down in your neck. And you know, though, that this happens sometimes with the more aggressive ones. They make themselves look like they're about to literally cut your head off, to see if you'll break. So you can hold fast in this, and eventually the head will come back down, the feathers will calm, and the large axe will get very close to your face to do the final challenge before trilling and snapping its beak again, and then letting out this really like rooster-like croak out of its beak, indicating that it has accepted you as a respected rider.
Cool. Yeah, I imagine like as it was like puffing up, the party would notice that like I have my hand out in front of me, like ready to like summon my weapon if I needed to, sort of thing. But like, for onlookers or the axebeak probably wouldn't have noticed that I had that ability. And then like once it calms down, I just gently start put my hand on its side and kind of just like stroke its plumage and like feel the muscle tendons like underneath it, to see like it show that like I made the right choice. I give it a pat and I just try and get on up there.
Yeah, you're able to get on board. You see on board. You see Deodrin comes over now and also pets the plumage of the axebeak and then taps it on the side and he says, Char here really likes you. No easy task. This axebeak here, well, he's grounded many a man. Who's next? And he points at you, Bruce, and he goes, are you looking for one as well? We've got a few smaller ones.
Am I? Looking around. Do we get 5 of them?
You look, there are like a dozen or more axebeaks here, so there's plenty of choices.
I'm gonna look for one that's like the tiniest looking one with like the beefiest legs.
Will you be able to ride it, Bruce?
Oh, we've got smaller axebeaks that are good for our smaller compatriots. We have plenty of gnomes and dwarves in this community that also learn to ride.
Not necessarily talking about his stature, but his vision is a little impaired. Especially if we're going to be heading into blizzards.
I think it would be best if I was partnered with somebody,
Well, old Char here can definitely handle more than one rider.
I suppose I could try to have him. Why don't you give him like a fledgling or something that will follow the larger birds around?
You could do that. They are trained. As long as they respect you as a rider, you should be okay, and it can lead you around even. You could also tie him off to one of the larger axebeaks, and they'll follow along.
So this will just look to Bruce back. Your call, whatever you're comfortable with.
Wouldn't hurt to have it, maybe. I don't necessarily need to ride it, right?
Oh, it's another mouth we have to feed on the road.
That's a good point. I'll hop in with somebody. Oh, well, we need one for Sal, right?
Oh.
Sal might be too heavy for the axebeaks.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, he was able to be in the cart when a horse was pulling the cart.
Yeah.
But on the horse's actual back might be too much. He could be dragged by a horse, but riding one might prove difficult for the horse or the axebeak.
Do we have any sleds?
Fast. Oh yes, I guess sleds work.
We do have sleds in the workshop.
What if we
could
get a
ride
bunch
with Sal
of
on a
little,
sled?
axebeaks? Make like a axebeak sled chain?
Yes, can we Santa Claus this bitch?
I don't know that reference. But yes, we do have some larger sleds. And you can do that. That is a function. We where wagons are not great in the wilderness here, these sleds drawn by axebeaks or hounds are very effective.
Oh, well,
All right.
great.
Well, how many do we need for a sled, you think? For given the size
It
of this?
depends on if you're just looking for a simple sled for movement, or if you're looking to bring things like a pack sled. More along the lines of what I think our friend here mentioning. What was it again? Santa?
Right.
No,
Santa Claus, the ancient demonic
The ancient
entity
tiefling, god of
that lives in the far north. Yeah.
I think it's Krampus, actually.
Yeah, we'll do that. One of those, just for movement. We don't need a pack or anything.
Not a pack sled, but just a quick sled.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We can arrange that and have an axebeak ready to pull that. Would anyone else like a personal mount?
I will say, if we are going the sled route, be wary, because if we need to send the axebeaks back, we will have to carry everything ourselves. Or, if there's terrain that the sled can't manage, we might find ourselves in trouble.
Well, if you're getting a maneuver sled, it's
Yeah,
something
like a
that
smaller
can be
one.
easy to carry over short distances, but then can be a quick way of moving over long distances. So if you need to climb over something, it's something that even you, big guy, as he taps Fyrn, could definitely at least maneuver over obstacles. It might slow you down a little bit in that moment, but will be faster over longer ranges. But we can get you situated with a sled axebeak. Is there anyone else who would be riding an axebeak? Is where you see Fyrn on Char, and Char is like definitely a little rambunctious, and like Fyrn's definitely like there's a moment when Fyrn's like trying to start joining the conversation, and then the axebeak just takes off for a moment and just starts running in like a figure 8 shape around in the field as fast as it can. And this thing's quick.
Nice.
Purely out of strength.
Fyrn is just taking, not even, he's a little, obviously, afraid, but he is not letting it show. He's taking it as a challenge, and he's just, holding on as hard as he can, and just, lets it... He wants to tire it out. He wants to show that, he can, he take...
can match its energy.
Yeah, right.
It is very akin to, like bull riding right now for what Fyrn is doing. Fyrn, give me an athletics check.
Yeah! I love those. It's not giving me the math, but I see that it's a 13, and I get a +9 to that, so 22.
22, you're able to hold on. DC is 15. You are doing swell. There's a few times where you're bouncing a little bit, and maybe you slide to the side a little bit, but you pull yourself back up.
Nice.
All right, who's next?
I would like to try to ride one of these beasts myself. Septimus will kind of go, which I don't think came up in the mic at all.
It didn't, but we saw the mouth movements. You did a little whistle and a clicking, it looked like.
Yeah, just try to do something similar to like you would for a horse and see how that works.
Absolutely. You would see there's a couple of axebeaks that respond to your whistle and click who raise their heads from the feeding area. Do you have a preference when you're looking at these axebeaks? So you can generally look at them and see that there are larger ones like Fyrn chose that are more of the strength-based axebeaks. Then you have ones that look a little bit more spindly, but also a little bit more dexterous, possibly. And then some that are a little in between. But you're basically, I'm going to give you all stat blocks for these axebeaks that match the kind of axebeak that you're picking. So, for example, Fyrn has picked a beefy axebeak. And you can ask Diadrin for, like, I'm looking to interact with, like, one that's a little more clever, one that's a little bit more dexterous.
I would say one. I'll do what I just did, and I'll see how the ones react to it. Because I think it sets his mind. It's whatever axebeak connects with him the most.
Absolutely. So there are 3 axebeaks that respond to your whistle and clicking noises. One of them is, I would say, somewhere in the middle. Like they're not super strong. They're not super dexterous. They have a little bit of both. You might even think that this one might be a little clever, given its approach to you. Sort of curiously looking at you as you make that whistling noise. You can even see some of that like dog-like head twisting from this one. It has sort of this pear-colored green feathers, so much so that you hear Diadrin literally call this axebeak Pear. That is its name. You see one that has these really bright, vibrant red plumage. And this one, you might surmise is brave because it just comes immediately right up to you. And gets kind of in your face a little bit. I wouldn't say super aggressive like Char was, but definitely a rambunctious one that is definitely curious, you can tell. And then a third one that is maybe a little sheepish, maybe a little shy, but is kind of coming up from the back of these other 2 that are approaching you and might be maybe a little bit more on the conservative side or not a risk-taking axebeak. But definitely looks very dexterous and fast.
Okay.
And that one has sort of a charcoal gray feathers.
I think Septimus would go and put a hand out and go to pet the red plumed one, the one that was brave. Saying it's a dangerous place that we're going. You seem to have some fearlessness to you.
Give me an animal handling check.
Oh, 24.
Okay. You're responding with a similar openness and bravery there. Does create this connection between you and this axebeak. That's almost immediate. There's almost a spark that comes from between the 2 of you. As Diadrin would say, good choice there, my human fellow. Scorch here. Very brave. Certainly one to take on the frozen norths with a certain level of pride. And the axebeak immediately is, with a 24 especially, the axebeak is immediately, like, connecting with you. Like, there's a point, like, he literally Scorch, like, shoves his head under your arm, like a dog trying to get pet. Then, like, as you're petting him, he actually runs around you really quickly, in a circle and then kind of takes a wide berth and then comes up right behind you and puts his head down and scoops you onto his back. And you can tell he's definitely has a good balance of strength and speed and dexterity.
Wow. Pretty comfortable. I can see everything from up here.
Yeah, you really are like very high up when you're riding these things. Excellent. Who's next?
I'd like one, please.
All right. Anyone that you're particularly affected by?
I did
Missy?
have my eye. Saskia. I did
Missy
have
Saskia?
my eye my eye on the one that's rolling around in the snow over there. Looks like having a good time.
That one?
Yeah, I feel a certain kindred spirit, if you know what I mean.
Oh, okay. That hopefully will go far. He doesn't respond to whistles very well. But
What does he respond to?
You gotta say his name a couple times until he notices you. Hershey! Hershey!
Hershey.
Hershey! Hershey! He starts snapping his dragonborn fingers. Hershey! Eventually, you can see it kind of rolls off of its back and pops up, and you can see that tongue just permanently hangs out of the beak. As its eyes go completely opposite directions. And just starts to comes rushing over. Its beak is really big and sharp. Its neck is very thin and it definitely is a little top heavy on its beak. So you can see his head kind of like he can't quite, if he's not paying enough attention to keeping his posture, the head kind of sinks down, and you see he kind of beaches himself in a way where his beak digs into the ground, and he almost completely trips and flips over, but he's able to in the last second bring his head up and catch himself to be able to like do like a really like he kicks up a ton of snow when he stops in front of you.
Whoa. Mercy, is it? Well, we got to work on strengthening those neck muscles, build some muscle. All right.
Give me an animal handling check.
Yeah. Oh, this is not going to go well. Okay, that's not bad. 16.
Okay. It's not that you don't do well handling and doing the bow, and Hershey bows too low and his head falls and hits into the snow.
Can I help him?
You can, yes, you can help him pick his head up,
like stroke it.
And there is like kind of like they do make this sort of like more lizard-like purring sound.
Yeah.
It's not like exactly like a cat. And they do kind of have verbal tics. So you can hear every time you're like petting Hershey, the eyes are everywhere. Like
Amazing.
they are anyone looking at Hershey would have an eye looking at him. But he lets out these little like whooping sounds when he's like purring like this. That are almost like
Zoidberg noises.
A little bit. There's kind of like these whoop 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 whoop, because they all have very interesting vocal ranges, like a lot of birds. The clapping of the beak is more of an intimidation thing that they do, or something that is a verbal sort of stim that they do to express sort of that they are maybe a little overwhelmed, or they use to show aggression. But this whooping sounds almost like a calming thing.
Cool.
But you do have Hershey. You can get onto
Great.
Hershey's back. Hershey is extremely fast.
Okay.
And it's partially because he has a lower survival instinct. of how much he could damage himself by running this fast. He's a big, dumb bird that's very fast.
Amazing.
He's like the Roadrunner, with none of the
Excellent.
cleverness.
Before I got on, I got on him, I would have just kind of like looked, like held his head as I was holding it up, and like looked at the eye, and just be like, "Oh, you and I are gonna be friends."
As soon as you get on his back, Hershey goes 0 to 100 very fast, and you actually crash into the fence of this enclosed area, and you go flying actually off of the back of Hershey. Give me a dexterity saving throw.
14.
Okay, you don't take any damage, but
I'll just kind of like tumble in the snow and just kind of like when I come to a rest, like I like splayed out and my legs are like to the side and I'm totally on my ass and just like
your eyes are kind of going in multiple directions.
Yeah. Right. I get up and start like, that whole dizzy walk where you can't walk straight.
Not Scorch. Hershey is also dizzy.
We're made for each other. I love it.
All right. Jacquette, is there any type of axebeak that catches your eye?
Jacquette's just kind of like hanging back, like leaning against the fence, just watching this all play out. And then I imagine like there's that like awkward pause where like Jacquette has not moved at all to engage with any of these creatures. Where maybe Deirdre like approaches Jacquette. Yeah.
No, it's definitely because like everyone has selected one, and then you can actually see Leon is preparing a sled with a smaller axebeak to pull it. That would be for Bruce. But Deadrin would eventually come over to you and clap a really heavy scaled hand on your shoulder. Like, any of them catching your eye there?
I don't know. I'm not exactly a animal person. What's your best? Just give me your best.
Well, best is a bit subjective to what you value. Your friend Fyrn there, White Eye. I don't know his name is Fyrn.
His name's Fyrn, by the way.
Your friend Fyrn there, White Eye.
No, you call him White Eye.
Oh, okay. Anyway, you're the person you're with.
Yes.
He clearly values strength. In Char, there's none stronger than Char in this flock. Your friend with the platinum hair values character, and personality. And Hershey's got a lot of it. And your friend with the mechanical arm there, interesting. He seems to value bravery and balance, which Scorch is. If you could argue for anything, Scorch is actually probably our best because he's the most balanced, quickest, bravest.
Of course, Septimus.
I know how to pick them.
I guess one that light on their feet, blends in well, has advantage on stealth checks, maybe.
You're looking for some a little clever, a more clever axebeak that might have better survivability out there.
Sure, and maybe one that won't give me any difficulty.
Well, that's a little bit up to you.
No, it's up to them.
And he takes out his whistle and does a different chord on it and blows it, and you can see two axebeaks raise their head up and come trotting over. They both are medium-sized compared to the rest of the flock, one of them being maybe a little bit smaller. One has pure white plumage, and the other one has a little bit off-white with a little bit of gray in it. Both certainly more likely to be better at hiding, better at stealth than the others. Both don't look like they're overly muscular like Fyrn's. They both look lithe and dexterous and quick. But these two could be helpful for you. We have this one here, and he starts to pet the pure white one. She's very fast, particularly clever at getting herself out of binds. I never have to worry about her compared to some of the other ones. Very independent, but also quick to follow commands. And this one here, he's just as good, just a little stronger. Where she's more dexterous, this one has a little bit more strength, a little bit more rambunctious, but still follows commands quite well. Would you like to try one of them out?
Number 1, let's see how you do. And Jacquette's gonna take out a little piece of jerky, and the fence. I imagine he's still on the other side of the fence. Like the fence is between him and these creatures. Yeah. As he like, huh?
Give me an animal handling check, and the axebeak will do a Jacquette handling check.
Genuinely hoping for like a bad roll, but it's a 21.
I know. I was kind of sitting here like somebody's gonna roll bad,
right?
Eventually. So the axebeak does come up. She is particularly careful, but not in a cowardly way. Very much so, coming up and coming forward a little bit, then coming back until eventually snapping the jerky out of your fingers. It does it is very clear to you that these things could, with very little effort, bite off your whole hand. But it does then snap down and swallows the jerky and does a little bill trill at you. Oh, well, I think she likes you.
Of course she likes me. Everybody likes me.
Care to go for a ride? Make sure you know what you're doing.
Sure. Shouldn't there be a saddle or something? Rigging?
Oh, they all have saddles on them. You can kind of they all have saddles on them.
Okay.
He knew you guys.
That's what that is, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it looks a little different from a horse saddle because it's got to adjust for the body, but I can help you up if you want.
No, that's okay. Thank you. And Jacquette will, graceful as a cat, climb up on top of the fence and then just do a little hop over on top of the axebeak.
As Sass and Hershey go zooming by in the background.
and Hershey, you'll need to train him, but he has a tendency to scream while he's running. So it's definitely like a that happens. It's like the old Pokemon movie when Zapdos is screaming. If you've ever seen that, it's just a man screaming. It's the sound of Zapdos screaming. But anyway, Deodrin goes and pats your axebeak and says, "This is a really good one. She is particularly good at following commands and training. She's not as strong as Char. She might not be as balanced as Scorch. A lot less character than Hershey, but she is, if nothing if not clever. Isn't that right, Cheddar?" As he pets and scratches underneath the beak.
I'm sorry.
Septimus lets out a little laugh.
This graceful creature is named Cheddar?
Yeah, her white fur reminded me of like really extra sharp cheddar, which is my favorite cheese, and she's one of my favorite axebeaks.
Cheddar.
Come on, Jacquette. That'd make for a good song. Jackie Two Shoes and Cheddar.
Two Shoes? What? No. What?
Oh, that's right. You don't wear those.
I do wear shoes, actually. I'm wearing a chance.
Oh, then you are Jackie Two Shoes, then.
Maybe we should call him Shoeless.
What? I'm wearing shoes!
Yeah, and the screaming Hershey and Sass come running by.
A lot of food names.
Yeah, it turns out Deodrin just likes food.
I did say he's
Hershey,
a very large dragonborn.
We don't know what Hershey's related to.
Yeah, it could be pronouns.
That's true.
Yeah, Hershey is it's just a traditional name for an axebeak.
It's a park over in
Oh yeah. In
Ooh.
that place, and it
whatever
just always smells
city.
like chocolate.
A mechanical park?
Wonders that you've never seen before.
Septimus is gonna make the first amusement park.
Deadrin does blow another chord on the whistle, and all of your axebeaks immediately, with you on them, come and right up in front of him and line up. So you're all lined up next to each other. Even Hershey does this. It is funny though, because I imagine the way you guys are standing, like there's Cheddar and Jacquet, and there's Hershey and Sass, and Hershey is like got bad depth perception and kind of like wanders and like
It's
almost
like,
like falls, like walks into Cheddar, and like if an axebeak could look annoyed, Cheddar looks annoyed. Is the best way I can put it.
Amazing. Amazing.
All right, so you all seem to have some sensibilities with riding these beautiful creatures. I'm sure a lot of you have ridden horses before. It's somewhat similar. It'll take some getting used to. But there's one last thing that is very different from a horse. And that is that these creatures have a deadly, razor-sharp axe on their face. So
That's what that is.
you...
I thought it was just like a growth.
Like, are their necks strong? Like, how do they swing their...
So that's what I'm going to show you
As
Oh.
Hershey's head just plummets into the snow.
How's
Or
their-
their next
here. Yeah,
straw.
Hershey has to cognizantly think about not just slowly falling forward.
Buddy.
So
He
we
just made a
train...
hand to keep his head up.
We train our axebeaks to attack on command, to try to prevent accidents, but also to give a little bit of control to their rider. So if there's, you'll get the gist of most of this, but there's two commands that I'd like to teach you. One has to do with this attacking, and the other has to do with the approach your axebeaks have to terrain. So the first command is, and you can slowly train the axebeak to respond to something different, but my command for them when I train them is, and Sean didn't think of the command, so the command is kill. No, it's not kill. It is
Understand ya.
yeah, exactly. No, it's
Slice.
it's banana. No, it's peanut butter. No, it is a word. He says a word in like Draconic.
Mhm.
That Bruce understands. He's like, oh, that means kill in Draconic.
So does Jacquet.
Oh, absolutely. He says a command word in Draconic, and like instinct, all of your axebeaks just immediately like an executioner's axe, just bring their heads down and slam them into the snow. And like it's pretty visceral. Like you could crush a person's skull with this. Hershey gets stuck in the ground, but everyone else slowly their axebeaks bring their heads up. He says a second command in Draconic, and you can see the axebeaks kind of position themselves a little bit differently. They're you can clearly see that their talons are spread out more, and they kind of adjust their center of gravity and walk a little slower. And he explains to you that this is a command for them walking over ice, where they can still move quickly and efficiently, but they have to move very carefully. And similarly, they can walk like this without breaching the snow too much, kind of as if they were wearing snowshoes, to move a little quicker through really rough, snowy terrain, as opposed to just trying to run through the snow while their legs are getting buried in it. But yeah, it takes some time to ride them around, get comfortable with them. We'll make sure they're all cleaned and ready and saddled. Well, they are saddled, but we'll make sure that their saddles are all in tip-top shape, so that they're ready for your departure.
Yay.
All right.
Ye-
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Fyrn's definitely gonna take some time, and try and get a lot of practice riding in before, they basically need to take him away, and get him ready, or I just want to. He doesn't feel confident yet, so he's really just like trying his best to train as much as he can before they let him off.
I also would like to spend time with Hershey, but mostly because the tension in the group right now is still a little taut. So, I get the sense that nobody really wants to talk to me right now. So I'll just kind of like spend some time with Hershey, and I will just end up, I think, instinctively using my mage hand to level his head so that he doesn't fall over.
Which does help.
Yeah. Good.
Septimus, during this time, is there like a track around here, like, or like a small area that it roams?
Yeah.
Take this time to mount Scorch and start to like trot a little bit and kind of get used to the feel of being in the saddle of an axebeak and get adjusted to how it is. And feeling more comfortable, maybe start doing some just hot laps and see how fast he can kind of get up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Bruce is gonna actually just take a look at the sled and just make sure that it's
Who
built properly.
Yeah, Bruce, the sled
For the snow.
is well constructed. It is definitely suited for the tundra like landscape. Now you can attach this sled to any of the axebeaks. Char would probably be the best one to carry both Fyrn and also drag you and Sal. But any of the axebeaks can be hooked up, and they're all trained to pull sleds. There's also, he shows you that there's attachments to add multiple of them to it to be faster. So you could technically hitch them all together to pull the sled together.
Bruce, I'm
Yeah.
starting to feel a little bit more confident. Do you want to give that thing a test run?
Well, you're kind of driving. I'll just sit here. Go for it.
Full speed, 100% gas.
Hey,
Bruce.
why don't you slow down a little bit?
Bruce, give me an athletics check.
You got it, boss. So 1.
I had to hesitate, pull myself back from saying it's an easy DC because I had a feeling something like this was going to happen.
You have to be ready for all of it. I lost you.
Yeah, like on the curve on the track, it just like completely sends you. Yeah, sends you launching.
You can't find Bruce. He's in the snow somewhere.
Yeah, Bruce, you land in the snow, and you're like in like a little hole in the snow, and you're just sitting there like, ugh. And then as like an axebeak just like trots over and stares at you from above the hole in the snow, trilling its beak a little bit. It's actually a little scary.
Well, it's blurry.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, but you have secured your axebeak mounts. I am going to make special stat blocks for them, because the traditional axebeak is a very, very weak monster. These things are certainly not going to be like wild in their stat blocks. They're still going to be vulnerable, but they're going to be beefier than a typical axebeak. Particularly Fyrn, yours is going to be even beefier. Each of them will kind of have somewhat of a unique stat block based on how we describe them here. You know, things like your axebeak sass will be faster than everyone else's, but there will be some drawbacks to that. Similarly, there'll be a burst strength to Char. There'll be a pretty well balanced stat block for Scorch, and then Cheddar is going to have some specific, more clever tricks in her stat block, and the ability to hide, where all of yours don't really have the ability to hide because they are all brightly colored and stand out in the
That's
snow.
what I was going for.
Hey, I mean, Char's big, but he's black. He could hide in the shadows.
Char would have a better time hiding
Better at night,
than the fantastic plumage of Scorch and Hershey. But anyway, those of you who stick around and continue riding can do so as long as you please until later in the afternoon when Deodrin begins to prepare the axebeaks and prepare packages for you that will have a certain amount of food.
I can't remember also. Were we supposed to get one for Baron, or is he going to have his own means of transport?
Baron is not didn't come with you here.
No, I know, but he's coming with us on the journey.
Yeah, he's probably arranging his own.
Okay.
Separately from you all. But he said he would meet with you all on in the morning to begin the journey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there any other downtime purchases or things that you want to do this afternoon into the evening?
No, I don't believe that is.
I want to buy a pet cat.
Okay, never mind.
No, I don't.
Do you really?
I just wanted to see your reaction.
Sean, what kind of like weaponry do I see these like guards using? Like, what type of armaments do they have in this place?
Most of them you see will have spears and axes. Maybe a few of them will have swords, but for the most part, they use spears and axes.
No long range whatsoever.
Oh, they have bows. They certainly have bows. Most of their bows are short bows, but they do have a few long bows. No crossbows that you can see, or at least most of the people, the militiamen, don't have crossbows. They all have a short bow. If you're looking at their typical armaments, it's a lot more like the armaments that a hunter might have as opposed to a fully trained guard. So a pocket knife, a hatchet, a spear, and a short bow is what most of them are outfitted with. Maybe if they're lucky, they have padded armor or leather armor, but no half plate other than Leon, who has half plate.
Seeing this and realizing, the threat of this, flying dragon that we encountered earlier, potentially causing problems. Fyrn's gonna actually go up to Bruce after his training session and say, "Good effort there. I'm sure you'll get the hang of it when the time comes."
I just need to strap myself in a little bit tighter.
Right. Sounds good. Anyway, I was thinking about the last time we fought the Harbinger, and I was severely weakened from fighting the trolls and other creatures, but it was very powerful, and we're going to need some way to limit its movement.
All right.
Or at least still be able to hit it while it's up in the air. Do you think you could help out with that?
Yeah. I've got some ideas. Can you come with me to go buy some chain?
Sure.
All right. You're able to eventually you are able to find one of the blacksmith areas here. And it's interesting when you mention the chain, the blacksmith actually becomes like excited for a moment. And that's when he reveals that they started building a big chain when they at the time that they were a little bit more confident about their ability to fight this dragon potentially. They're like, we just need to get a big chain. We'll be able to, and then build a scorpion or a ballista that can fire it. And then they were like, we can't do this. So they already started building a chain basically to try to hook the dragon and create some kind of system. They just gave up long before they came to the fruition of the project. So they do have chain. It depends on how much chain you want.
How much chain you got?
So I'm looking at the equipment, and it's basically 5 silver pieces for 10 feet of chain. But that's kind of like regular chain. If you're looking to purchase the thick chain with 2 C's that they were starting to build, that would be a bit more expensive.
Is it like 1-to-1, like 1 silver per 1 foot?
Basically, yeah.
All right. I think. Yeah. Give me 200 feet of chain.
Perfect.
I'm gonna give him 10 gold pieces.
Nice. Excellent. Chain is a real item in D&D Beyond, so you can grab that, and it has stats in there.
This is the thick stuff.
Yes. You can add a note saying this is thick chain.
Hell yeah.
Which means that it does have a instead of the 20 strength check for bursting the chains, it's a 25 strength check.
Ooh. Big strong chain.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other specific asks for shopping or anything in town before it's dinner time?
Dinner time.
Dinner time. What do you want? Bruce?
I don't want anything. Oh, him.
Or are you reading chain?
I was just looking at Persico.
Okay. Okay, so the afternoon goes by with writing and purchasing chain, and investigating sleds, and eventually, well, really, this is all happening in the morning, so you have the whole day. Those of you who spent extra time with your axebeaks, which would be basically everyone except for Jacquet, I think, or was Jacquet also okay?
I was gonna say Jacquet probably would have fucked off pretty quickly, and probably gone to the revelry camp to just hang out with a good time.
Absolutely. So those of you who spent the afternoon with your axebeaks will basically have not heroic inspiration for the usual purposes of it for everything, but you have basically a banked reroll for any actions you take with your axebeak. So if your axebeak attacks something and it misses, you can reroll once with this free reroll. If you are doing some kind of animal handling check with the axebeak, or you're doing something where the axebeak or using the axebeak requires a roll, you can use this banked reroll.
Okay. Good to know.
Nice.
But dinner time comes. You can either eat rations in the house with Bruce, or there's a big kind of feast happening in the revelers tent, where they are saying donations are accepted, but the food is free. What would y'all like to do?
Jacquet's at the revelry camp, probably up on stage already.
Excellent.
Just enamoring the crowd with his stories.
Mm-hmm. And of course, like, no roll necessary, even though I know you have your minimum, because like you could be really
minimum 22. Just saying.
True, but
22.
But amongst this population, you could be the worst bard in all of Aldhalor, and you would have been the first bard they've seen in years. So they're excited for any slightly different story than all the ones they tell each other over the years. You could tell them about the most boring thing Iron and Mana did, and they'd be like, "Ooh, interesting."
He bought chain.
Maybe not that boring, but yes, Jacquette, you're able to wonder the reveler crowd. Would the rest of you eventually go there, or is anyone just chilling with some jerky in the tower?
Yeah, I would say Fyrn would go there, but then like shortly after, like ordering a drink and like getting, filling his belly, he would realize that he's like not really in the mood to be in such a boisterous, loud place. And he kind of just like puts his food down and like steps outside, and he's just like sitting out in the snow, like looking up at the stars for a while.
Excellent.
I'll say Bruce was in his hut for a while. He was working on the idea that, that he had about with the chain and tying somebody down. And while Fyrn is looking up at the stars in the distance, in peace and quiet, in a field of snow, you'll just hear like a and then a chain fly from this just pipe with no hook, and just flies out. Oh boy! Just disturbing the silence.
Yeah, and this is when Bruce, you realize like you didn't tie the other end of the chain to anything, so it just goes like a bunch of confetti paper out into the distance. Which you will need the help of someone like Fyrn to get back for you.
Yeah, I would probably run back up and be like, "What the hell was that?" And help out with whatever needs to be done.
Septimus would be in the area too. He wouldn't be going to the revelers, so he's there to assist anyway.
Where's Baron this evening?
Seriously, not present.
Cool.
He might be, if you stay at the revelers, he might show up later. But like at like 5 for like the actual feast start, he is not there yet. Okay. But you can either wait for him or retire early if you want to talk to him. He will be there eventually, most likely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Most of his stuff's there.
Yeah. All right. I'll chill for a little bit and I'll wait for him. I just have a question for him.
Saskia and Jacquette, because you guys are at the Revelers camp, and Fyrn for the short time you were there, people are bombarding you with gifts. A lot of like stuff you're probably not even going to be able to bring with you because you just don't have the space for it. But like people are bringing food mostly, and like wines and water. There's a lot of like fresh baked bread they're giving you. They're handing you cured meats. Some of them are handing you like a bunch of like venison that they've had preserved, like a shit ton of better food than the rations you all have. Not going to last as long as rations, but will last a while, especially if you keep it well. The wine they give you is fairly cheap. It's like stuff they're making in their huts and stuff. Most of it's different kinds of like berry wines or mead even. So they give you a lot of gifts. You do get a few potions. Just really like nothing special, or each get a minor healing potion. So Saskia, Fyrn, and Jacquette all get a minor healing potion. Now, these minor healing potions look old as fuck. Like they are like if they were home brewed, they're in like the equivalent of a mason jar. that the potions in. Some of them were purchased from travelers so long ago that the branded labels are all worn away, and the bottles are like cloudy almost. Because the way you can think about it is that in an area where there's not an alchemist common, or even a poorer area, a family might own a health potion that they just don't use. It's like, this is in case of emergencies and might even be passed down if it's never used. So these are like old health potions.
Expired.
Health potions don't necessarily expire. They just lose their flavor.
They're
a
little
bit.
cloudy.
A little cloudy.
Yeah.
They might get a little vinegary.
They don't go down as easy.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. I will look everybody that brings me something. I will look them like directly in the eye, like very intense eye contact, and just like very genuinely, very heartfelt, like thank them, because as somebody who steals table scraps, this is so lovely to eat like good food, fresh baked bread. What? So like those people, I thank particularly profusely, the ones that bring bread, and
Absolutely.
I sure as shit am drinking some of that wine.
Mm-hmm.
Jacquet similarly thanks every single person, but where there is sincerity in Saskia's voice, there's also sincerity in Jacquet's voice. So they think.
Some deceptive
as he is just playing it up, he's just like, "Oh, you are so kind. Don't worry, we will take this. We will use it in our journeys north." And he just keeps, and he's like, "Oh, and if you have anything else, please come bring it later."
Yeah, and
so kind of you.
You guys are the real heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of you. Thank you.
Every
Last
donation
time.
you make goes towards stopping the Herald.
Yeah, and there is a lot of like the way they bring them, and they specifically say for your journey north. Like they're not just gifts to be like because we're having a party. They are for your journey north, and you know, the residential bards and storytellers here are telling your story, as well as essentially this, what was a celebration of surviving a blackout has become a celebration of iron and mana. And you actually see some of the leaders of the several camps would come up to you as well, and they don't necessarily bring lavish gifts, but they bring sort of an air of respect to you. And are all sort of promising, for lack of a better way to put it, glory to you. If you come back successful, like this will be you will never be forgotten in the Gosu Highlands if you succeed. Is the message they're all giving to you, that you will become legends to the North upon saving it. Not to put a lot of pressure on you, but it's basically like probably the most not harsh, but the most serious of them all. Moira Hiraith, the Elysian captain of the Veilguard Tower, is the one who kind of comes up to you and like gives you a firm handshake, and is maybe a little bit more pointed in what she says. It's less of a like, thank you so much, thank you so much. You will be a legend. We will glorify your name for the ages to come. And much more of there's a dangerous task in hand in the north. Don't mess it up. Glory may await you, and these others will shower it upon you. But you've earned our respect at least. Now solidify it.
We're either coming back successful or we're not coming back at all. Either way, we won't be your problem.
Yes. Well, since you've opened up the southern road, if you are not successful...
By the way, speaking of that southern road, there's something I wanted to check in with you all here. Have you ever heard of a entity who would be worshipped somewhere in a small Is there like a town between here and Stormbreakers? Small with like a chapel and a few buildings that you're familiar with?
There is an old small monastery that was between these two settlements.
Yeah,
The order is long gone.
well, when we passed by there, my friend actually, overheard there were some... They seem to be still living individuals there. I believe he described will-o-wisps flying around. And if memory serves me correct, they were crying, like tears, and they said something, Lord Raven, I believe? Protect. They prayed to this altar made of metal weapons that formed a blooming flower. If you know anything about that, maybe, regardless, you should be wary. It's about halfway between here and Stormbreakers. Totally forgot about it until earlier today and wanted to bring it up.
Well, it might be something that our militia can take care of. We were hoping we are not hoping. We are praying we don't need to do this. But if you fail, we will need to plan an expedition south. We will not survive another year here. So.
Sure, but this Lord Raven, does that mean anything to you? I wonder if Lord Raven is the guy that turns into the Herald. These are things that I should talk with my friends about. Why am I talking to you? Well, you have information. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
And she just takes a sip of her flagon of wine and is like, Lord Raven is not a name I'm familiar with. But like you've seen, we have been fairly isolated, though. If there's other survivors out there, like you said, they were still living, this must be part of the tricks of the Herald, I imagine. It's Lord Raven, perhaps it's another name for the Herald. Maybe it is his proper name. Or it's whoever he serves, if he serves. We don't know enough. We've just been surviving.
Is there anyone in town that might have the answer to this Lord Raven question?
Perhaps the hags?
Jacques says it just goes back to his drink. Thank you, Moira, for your inspiring words. Like I said, we're either coming back or we're not. Cheers to that.
She cheers as you. It's a little while later that Sass, while you're listening to the bards and sitting properly, imagine you're sitting alone, drinking some wine and nomming on some bread.
Slowly descending into drunken stupor.
It's the interesting thing though is you can feel however you want to feel about this, but you are technically in a temple to your patron now.
Yeah, I think that won't initially hit me because it didn't for Shannon. So I'll just kind of be drinking, and just then mid drink I'll just be like, and just kind of put the pieces together. And
perhaps it's, however Sass would feel about that, whether it's a paranoia or comfort, is up to you. It might cross your mind, is there anyone else here who's in a pact with Ro? Do these people know? It's kind of maybe connecting a little bit more to you of what the rivalry religion means.
Yeah.
In the context that you guys understand. You think about that, You think about Thalwyn, the creepy elf,
Yeah.
who is just
Yeah.
in his weird gliding, super tall way, is just like walking amongst the crowds with that massive smile. You can see with those long, spindly limbs, where he's just like, and I hope you're enjoying yourself on this evening. And you as well there. Oh,
Oh boy.
a true revelry tonight. It's like almost like he sees you,
Mm-hmm.
and like you could just see those big eyes and that big smile as he just nods to you,
Oh fuck.
and then shifts and glides away towards Jacquette.
Oh.
Jacquette is doing everything he can to avoid him. And if he gets too close, Jacquette jumps up on stage and starts performing.
At no point does Thalwyn get to talk to Jacquette tonight. So, Sass, while you're sitting there and watching Thalwyn chase Jacquette slowly, you feel someone kind of like jump down and kind of like over the bench you're on and sits next to you. As you look and you can see Baron there holding his own flagon, with his dark hair kind of in a messy mop. He's still in kind of, he never really stops wearing like ranger's clothes. So he's very much like you all in the sense that he has kind of like these really ragged clothes. Because even like Jacquette's like nicer clothes have worn a little bit with the adventuring. Although he does specifically have a heavy cloak, I imagine, to protect them.
Also, Robespierre does sewing
Yeah.
and reparations.
Very true, actually. I do imagine Robespierre is trained in seamster arts.
Yeah, when Baron sits down, then I'll just like kind of like nod and hold out my flagon to knock against his. Some party, huh?
And you can see, like, even though it was rather nice today, there are fires going. It's still cold in this place. You can see Baron is kind of like wrapped up in these dark cloaks that he has. It's sort of like a dark green color. And you can actually see there's it's actually a reversible cloak where it has this dark green, almost forest-like side, and then it has this sort of like white furred side that has like snow fox fur in it. If he needs to conceal himself in a wintry tundra. But he's kind of wrapped himself up in it in a bundle with his cup like this, and when you go to cheers, he just sort of like does this. Always a revelry before dangerous journey. But you there, Saskia, you look glum. Are you afraid of tomorrow?
No, it's not that. No, I fucked up pretty good with my friends, so I'm just trying to figure out how to make it better. I'm not quite sure how to do that yet.
I was wondering why it was so awkward when I got there this morning.
Yeah. Actually, I had a question for you, actually. I don't remember what I told you about my pact, but it doesn't matter anymore because I have a new one. So, my question for you is, have you switched pacts before? Did you have one and then you had another, and did you like it better? Or I don't fucking know what I'm doing, is the truth of it.
And he kind of looks up at you from his like huddled bundle, and like you can see like one of the brazier fires kind of like glints in his eye as he kind of smirks at you, and like does kind of cock his head like what you're saying is very strange. Switching packs.
Aye.
Trading masters.
Aye.
No, I'm sorry, I can't say I ever traded one master for another. Well,
You got out of yours, though, right? Is that what you said?
I did.
Or you fulfilled your pact?
No.
No. Oh.
Neither parties fulfilled their promises, as I've told you all. I did not get the revenge I sought, so they didn't get what I promised.
Were there any repercussions for just ending it?
I didn't just end it. I didn't just say no one day. It was a process. Arduous process. Required great resources and great findings.
Ah.
Ritual that unbound my soul from my patron.
I see. Fuck that! I probably I think, but I think I fractured my soul then. Because I didn't do anything for the other one. I didn't do any of that fancy shit you just said for the other one, so she probably still has it. And then this other one, I just took another piece. I think I didn't feel anything, but I made a pact, so that's how that works, right? I just kind of go into these things without thinking. It's just like, shut up, Jacquet. I just like, I don't know. There was a problem. The problem, I needed to solve it immediately, and there was an immediate solution, so I took it. But nobody's happy about it. I still don't quite know how I feel about it. But I got this cool armor out of it, I suppose. And some straightforward answers for once.
They'll always promise you beautiful things.
Yeah.
And as a victim myself, I understand the offerings of great powers. It'll always keep what you want just out of your reach. Otherwise, you're useless to them. They want you to follow in their paths they lay out for you. But you need to seize your own path. Follow your own vision.
I don't have one.
That's why you were easy picking, most likely.
Yeah.
Patrons across the planes of existence always seek out the lost, the wanting, and the rejected.
Check.
We have a task at hand, but I could help you when it's done.
When what's done? The task. Yeah, the task, yes, that makes it. How?
He kind of laughs at you, and you kind of like get a little befuddled there. Just sort of laughs, charmingly, not in a mocking way. Ritual.
You know how to do it?
I did it once.
And you're still alive, so that's something. You're not a patron, are you? You're not going to take another piece of my soul. I don't know how many pieces I have left.
He kind of like, you can see as he's like hugging himself, he just holds his hands out. You can see he's got these fingerless gloves on. You can see these like calluses on his fingers. He's just like, just a man.
Do I believe him?
Give me an insight check.
Okay.
Say with disadvantage because it sounds like Saskia's a little drunk.
She's a little drunk. Yeah, she's a little drunk. 13.
He's just a
There's
man
no
that
reason
you've
to
met.
not
There's
trust
no
him.
reason
Yeah,
not to trust him. He's been nothing but kind, and the only magic he's shown is the arrows that he uses, which are magical arrows, not him making magic. He's a man, as far as you can tell.
I mean, I'd very much I'd be curious to learn more about this ritual, but I think I'm too drunk to understand it right now.
Oh, no. Of course not. Tonight is about celebration. Getting a good belly full of food, wine, before a long journey tomorrow. We won't have these privileges. So enjoy yourself tonight, Saskia. We can talk more about this ritual when the time comes. It can take much preparation anyway, gathering certain things.
All right. I appreciate it. I'll think on it, but yeah. Okay.
And at the end of the day, Saskia, whomsoever you follow commands of, your soul is still your soul. I had to remind myself of that every day that I plotted against my patron. And I took it back. You can too. And seize your own future. There's so much to do in this world. He kind of looks up at the stars through the hole in the tent, big tent, in the center.
Thanks, Baron. I appreciate it. Yep.
Anytime. You might want to slow down. We do have a long journey tomorrow. And he taps your cup and stands up and walks over with a bit of a swagger away, kind of looking back at you and gives you a wink before going and grabbing some skewers of meat off of a hot grill.
I'll eat some more bread to soak up the alcohol.
And then Baron would kind of disappear into the crowd. Jacquette can stay out as late as he would like, entertaining the people. Saskia, eventually, I imagine you'll wander back to find Bruce standing next to his pipe that he's working on. While I imagine like you have like Fyrn there literally wrapping the chain up around his arm. After the three of you went and got the chain from 4 blocks down.
Successful night, gentlemen.
Depends on what you call successful. It's still young.
I mean, I'm gonna go to bed soon here, Fyrn. I'm fucking tired. But we did have some success. We're checking out this. We're shooting a chain.
Oh.
Seeing how far it can go. And then we're gonna tie it down and make a device to latch down any sort of flying entities.
You're
Maybe not
brilliant,
everything,
Bruce.
but-
You're so brilliant. That's a great idea.
It's actually Fyrn's idea.
You too, then, Fyrn. You're both of everybody. Everybody's just so smart. I love it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I drank too much. I'm going to bed.
All right. Good night.
Nice.
Right.
And Saskia, something to remind you of is this is not a Scarlet situation where the armor is like part of you. You can take the armor off.
Okay, cool. I was probably maybe I'll take it off and maybe like polish it a little bit before I go to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't live in my skin this time.
It does not live in your skin. You're not stuck sleeping uncomfortably in half plate armor, where I think you actually can't get a long rest while you're wearing armor like that.
Oh dear. Cool.
And like as you're polishing it, like you can just like feel the radiating power off of it and how old it is. Like it is ancient. There's just an aura to it.
I'll admire all the sea motifs and things on it too, and just think of the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. As you like run your thumb over the wave motifs, you like hear waves in your head, and then you eventually drunkenly fall asleep.
Excellent.
Is there anything else anyone would like to do tonight before the morning comes?
Yes.
Alrighty. Septimus, you're up. I imagine as they're cleaning up the chain and getting ready for bed as well. Jacquette's still out, I imagine, until later in the evening.
Yeah, this is kind of a joint thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna find Fyrn.
Oh, excellent.
And per his request from last time, try to see if we could delve a little deeper and learn about the Ithnal Dagnir.
Ooh, okay. Are you going to do the same thing? Use Divine Intervention to
Yes.
to cast
yes.
Legend Lore?
Yes, use Divine Intervention to cast Legend Lore prior to. Obviously, have Fyrn try to re-describe the thing to us, even though he does have a name for it, which I think helps greatly. But still, it's part of the flavor.
Yeah, Fyrn will just be like, when he comes over to Septimus to like remind him, he might say something along the lines of, "We face a threat that I'm not sure if I have the strength to defeat. That we have the strength to defeat. Many have tried before and failed, and there are many powers that be have warned us of certain death. If we are to succeed, we have to at least try this." And as he's saying this, you get the sense that it feels very scripted. Like, it's something that he definitely like practiced to tell you. And it just doesn't feel genuine. Like, it looks like he has something else on his mind as he's saying it.
Well, Fyrn, I know it's something that you and your family and your clan believe to be myth, a legend. What better way to find out for sure? Hopefully we can get answers from Machina. As he'll go about doing his ritual, lighting the incenses, and sitting down and focusing, and chanting O Great Machina. Please reveal to me your knowledge and your insight. The legendary weapon that my friend Steamley holds in his mind, and his brother looked to find, the Ithildagnir.
There's like a humming within Sal and within all of Septimus's mechanical parts, similar to before, where there's a light that emanates from underneath the carapace or the chassis of Sal and the inorganic flesh of Septimus. As Septimus, your eyes would glow with that blue light as you would seek this knowledge. You don't hear the same broken mechanical voice that you did last time, where the Machina was delving into the histories and telling you and speaking directly to you and answering your questions. This time you get images in your mind, and a few words spoken by a seer. You feel yourself almost transported into these visions as you the first thing you feel is bloodlust. You can feel the feelings of some person as you would then hear the cries of battle. And you would see this drow with long hair held in a braid that goes down their back, white inked runic tattoos of motifs of death across her face as she brings down a hammer into the skull and plate helmet of an Elysian elf, crushing it. The hammer in her hand is emanating this frozen aura. It looks like a warhammer. It has a haft made of bone. Not like, hey, I put a rock at the end of a human femur. More like bones large enough to be dragon bones. And then at the head, you can realize that it's not like a dragon finger bone or a wing bone. It is actually a whole under jaw of a dragon. As at the head, where an axe head would be, there are these large draconic fangs on one side, and then the other side is the hammer, an actual built-on frozen hunk of metal. So someone could use this as an axe on one side by slicing these dragon fangs into someone, and then equally crush as a bludgeoning weapon with the hammer side. Akin to those war hammers that have the pick on the back of it. This concentrated point of bludgeoning and piercing.
Yep.
As she's absolutely destroying a bunch of Elysian elves.
Oh, a bunch. It wasn't just one.
Oh no, there's a full battle happening.
Oh, she's just cutting them down. All right.
Yeah, and she has this blue and white motif armor that is covered in symbols of death, skulls, bones. Her skin is pale, almost ghostly, for a drow. And there are other soldiers who are dressed similar, fighting Elysian elves. And then mingled amongst them are similar fighters that don't have the same blue and white motif with death, but more so are wearing this like black iron armor with weapons that have fire like enchantments on them, as opposed to the ice of these pale soldiers. And there's just this clashing, and you can see this is a fight that's gotten so bloody and awful that it is now just turned into this really tight squeeze of two lines pushing and pulling, where people are getting like squeezed so tight that they can barely breathe in this fight. And you're seeing this almost as if you are a soldier that's just standing still in the middle of all of it. But if you were to look at your hands, you're Septimus, just in witnessing this. You're not affected by like the actual squeeze and whatnot. And this is all overwhelming at first until you're filled with however Septimus would react to this as a massive, almost as big as a mountain dragon flies overhead. And as this dragon flies overhead, there's this concentrated beam of moonlight that shoots through one of its wings. And as it shoots through one of its wings, you can see there's just this massive globule of magma that just falls from that wing and just lands on these soldiers and just incinerates like 20 soldiers as this dragon roars and keeps going. As you can then see behind it, where this beam was coming from, is the full moon of Ilyuvania in the sky. And it's in that moment that this dragon flies off that you hear a second roar as another dragon flies by. This one is not made up of black and gold scales covered in molten fire, but as you might guess, based on the soldiers, is emanating a frozen aura and is lich-like the dragon of the Herald. It has exposed bones, but it does have flesh across it. It's much more akin to a Draco Lich than a complete resurrected skeleton of a dragon, like the one that you guys see the Herald ride.
Gotcha.
With this crown of spikes on its temple, and a much larger wingspan than the previous dragon, but this one is smaller. And almost like this dragon is following the molten dragon, it just sort of unleashes this frost breath across the Elysian army that just sort of completely decimates the front line of their units. And you can see the molten armored and the ice armored army fighting the Elysians then just sort of blow a bunch of horns, and they all charge over this ice wall created by this dragon, and then start to huck spears and shoot bows down from this little ice wall down at the Elysian army, absolutely devastating their front line. As then you see this Elysian elf covered in scintillating plate armor, pulls out dual-wielding two longswords, holds it out and screams in Elysian a charge forward. And the last thing you see of this fight is that Elysian dueling the drow elf with the hammer. Mm-hmm. And the last thing you see of this vision is that Elysian stab that drow through the neck, through the throat, as the hammer falls to the ground and actually completely melts away.
Melts away.
Literally melts
like
away.
The liquid.
And then there's this, as this Elysian has a few moments to celebrate his victory as the armies break, seeing the death of this leader, there's this huge light that flashes up as you can see both dragons crawling across the surface of the moon, ripping whole pieces away from it, as this molten dragon breathes just endless gushes of black flame into the guts of this moon. And that flash of light, and like a meteor, that dragon flies across the sky to the south, while the other dragon, his body seems to be barreling to the west. But that dragon is still flapping its wings and is in retreat, whereas the other one is just a meteor of death heading towards the Gosu Ruination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And above is just this gutted moon now, with its pieces floating in the sky as it dims. And the victory of these Elysian elves is quieted by the apparent death of their goddess. As this vision fades, you would see this corpse, or this lich-like dragon flying over the sea. It's bleeding out, gushing out blood. The same thing that you read in the notes that Fyrn gave you is spoken to you from the cracked lips of a witch somewhere in the north. The dead hammer awaits the worthy in the palm of the unworthy, near the resting place of the first exile. The worthy must take the pale covenant in this garden of rhymed decay, where the unworthy find no peace, only the long, piercing agony of the hoarfrost. And the vision shifts to this temple of ice that is sort of cradled in this frozen corpse of that ice dragon, and nestled at the center of the coil of the dragon, its wings kind of making up the walls of the temple with frozen ice all around, is a humanoid shape sitting crisscrossed, almost in a meditative stance, just sitting there. And across his lap, held in the hands, all completely frozen, is that hammer, the Aldhalor. And the man frozen there looks like a tiefling. Looks very akin to Fyrn, very akin to Fyrn's iconography and all of that, as he sits there frozen with the Aldhalor at his lap. But essentially, what you've learned from this is that the Aldhalor is the holy warhammer of the leader of whatever cult worshipped this dragon in ancient times. It is a hammer given to the favored of this dead dragon god.
This dragon is different than the one we saw with the herald, right?
Correct. That one was more like a ghost dragon, truthfully.
Okay.
A better way to put that one was a dragon skeleton that had sort of a dragon spirit animated over the skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
This one is also far bigger than the Herald's Dragon. The Herald's Dragon was huge. It was gargantuan, but this one's so big that it can make its corpse is essentially a structure.
Yeah. I will relay that all to Fyrn and be like, well, the weapon you seek is real, and it seems to be extremely powerful. And I will relay the vivid detail, everything that you had said about the battle, the destruction of the moon, the disappearing or the melting of the weapon, and it being reforming within this dragon temple, frozen, waiting for, I guess, a new disciple of this being to reclaim it.
And you say you saw this temple?
Vague images. It's definitely in an area covered in ice and snow. Very much like the area that we find ourselves now. That's why I believe your brother may have thought this be a place to look. But I can't say for certain if it is here or not.
Fyrn just looks a little concerned and says, "Thank you for trying. I appreciate your attempt, but I don't feel any closer from this information."
Why not? Before, when you've mentioned it, you've thought it to be a folly. But you know now that this item that you and your brother, for whatever reason, been banished from your clan or trying to find to get back into your clan, doesn't that give you hope? Knowing now that there is a chance?
I think that I must search for this. It doesn't matter what I think. It is something that I'm honor bound to do. Even if it's I just feel that the spirits here, the shrine and the entity that wants me to head further north, it wants me to go someplace that isn't for the Ithildagnir. I thought I was holding on to some hope that maybe it would be, but I think we're dealing with something entirely different here.
Well, taken how you feel, but it remains where hopefully your brother is safe. And hopefully we can find him in this mess that we've gotten ourselves into in this area.
Right. I just fear that if I don't succeed here, if we don't succeed, it won't be just my death, it'll be my brother's as well. I appreciate what you've done tonight. I won't forget it. We head out tomorrow to put an end to this one way or another.
Aye.
Fyrn just nods his head once again in thanks. Kind of gives him a deep bow, and then, trots off to lean against the wall and fall asleep.
Okay. Everyone rests for the evening to prepare for the journey tomorrow. And we're going to take a quick break. So we'll be back, folks, shortly to
Sounds
finish up
good.
tonight's session. See y'all very soon. Welcome back, everybody, to Adrift in Aldhalor. Shannon had to step away. She was not feeling well, so we hope that she feels better tonight. And we'll see her again next week. So Saskia is hanging out with Hershey, and maybe giving everyone some space after her betrayal, we can say. So the morning comes. Are there any last-minute preparations that you want to make, or are you all gonna go pick up your axebeaks and meet with Baron to leave?
The latter.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
that.
Excellent. So when you get to the Green Grave, all of your axebeaks are there, kitted out with polished new saddles, with all sorts of different supplies. You can actually see that Diadrin has thrown in a little bit of light barding for the axebeaks as well, so they'll have a little bit more protection if you do encounter a fight. He's also attached with the sled some miscellaneous supplies, a couple of blankets in there that you can throw over the axebeaks if it gets really too cold, although they'll usually be fine in the temperatures. He also explains to you, Bruce, because I imagine you're hanging out by the sled while he's packing it. And here I've supplied you with a fishing net as well, in case you run out of food for them or your food is lost. That there are fish in the rivers of this land. Always an option if you are running out. Good for yourselves as well.
They're not frozen over?
Not the running rivers.
Ah. All right.
Some of them are, but there are some that are not frozen over.
Okay. Well,
Or, of course, you can always go ice fishing. And he smiles.
yeah, never. Yeah. It's kind of interested in doing that.
Well, there's certainly some lakes on your path north. And he immediately goes into a deep dive. You didn't ask for it, but he starts talking to you really a lot about ice fishing, and the different details of it, and techniques and everything. He really likes ice fishing, and you can tell he hasn't gotten a chance to go in a while because they've been isolated here.
What about casting shatter under the water?
Bruce has no idea, or any fish, so he's just taking a bunch of notes. Then later on, he'll look over to Fyrn. Do you know how to fish?
Oh yeah, I could totally cast shatter under the water.
Yeah, using magic is frowned upon in the ice fishing community.
Fyrn's not here for the ecosystem; he's here for the bite.
And you see Baron is there as well, getting his own axebeak all prepped. You can see his is similar to Jacquette's, to Cheddar, in that it has white plumage, although it has a few black and gray streaks in the feathers, and has oddly enough, a smaller axebeak than the rest of them. But it looks sharper in a weird way, almost polished even. But Baron has an impressive axebeak as well. But you can get all saddled up and head out. You are given 2 weeks worth of food for your axebeaks.
Cool.
Which is mostly some simple grains and frozen fish. He does explain that worst case scenario, if you can't fish for them and you run out of food, they will hunt on their own. But it's a little bit unreliable because they are used to being fed. But you begin to walk your way out all along on your axebeaks. Bruce, who are you attaching your sled to?
Fyrn's
Mhm.
axebeak.
Axebeak.
I forget the name of it already.
Char.
The sea.
Char.
Okay.
Char, yeah.
Charmander.
It's like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Chandra.
So Sal and Bruce would be on the sled that's being pulled by Char.
Hold him tight, Sal. He's precious cargo.
Sal
100 miles an hour, full gas.
Sal like puts a whole arm around Bruce and just holds you in tight, Bruce.
This is much better.
As you all kick off and begin to head out, you head out along the road that you came in on, and then Baron takes you on a slight alternate road to go to a different gate to leave towards the northeast direction, which leads you towards the mountains in the north.
Bruce, the entire time, since he's secure in Sal's arms, he is just virtual realitying through Lolly Rock as everybody's traveling, just from above.
Absolutely. And you're getting closer and closer to the tree line of the northern forests that hug against the northern Palto Alps. And what's the typical marching order y'all are going to take? Baron is, of course, going to be in the front since he knows the way.
I'll be right behind Baron.
Okay. Then we'll
Followed by
have Bruce
me.
on his sled, followed by Scorch. Jacques, are you taking up the rear like you usually do?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll put Hershey behind Scorch, and then Cheddar behind Hershey. Okay. So, as you get closer and closer to the forest line, you would notice everything getting a little bit darker, actually. The darkness of the gloaming and of this general region with its various clouds and fog is becoming denser and denser as you move further away from Serkanto. You actually start to feel colder and colder as well as you get further away from Serkanto, until at a certain point, which is essentially when you get to the forest line, and you can see this forest is filled with twisted skeletons of trees, like trees that are long dead but seem to have some kind of undeath to them, mingled with vibrant and very much alive evergreen trees. So this dark forest is a little bit ominous when you approach the forest road. And Baron calls it the forest road because there is some kind of road that goes through this tree line that used to be an actual main thoroughfare between Serkanto and Summalto, but is now somewhat overgrown, but kept relatively clear, that is still able to be utilized. And as soon as you enter the threshold of the forest, Baron turns back and looks to you, Fyrn, and to Bruce on the sled, since you're the closest to him, and just says, "We've just left the influence of Mother Vine. You'll feel the cold. You'll feel more of the herald and the undeath of the region. This is where the real danger comes back." Keep an eye out for any movement, anything unusual, smells, sounds, sensations. You made it through the southern road. You understand what it's like out here. But we're getting closer and closer to the origin of the creeping undeath, which means it will be stronger.
Well then, please lead the way.
In an emergency, we can use some of the blessed wort, but we should try to conserve it. stay close. And your first day begins. Well, really, at this point, it's a couple hours into the day, but you begin moving through the forest. Would anyone like to be keeping a watch or perception on the surroundings?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone who wishes to can give me a perception check. And Bruce, you can use Lally Rock if you want from higher vantage point.
Woo.
All right. What did folks get?
17.
17.
18.
Ooh.
27.
21.
Ooh, oh. Holy shit, you guys are perceptive as fuck. Bruce, I'll start with you since you're looking from a different vantage point than everyone else. You can see the forest. Like, you can look and see kind of the overall shape of the forest and the way it hugs the mountains that are way to the north. And something you notice, and this isn't necessarily something that's like close to you all, but is certainly mingled throughout the forest, is you just see tops of trees moving, but not like wind, literally like a moving tree. Sort of migrating throughout the forest almost. It reminds you a little bit of like sharks prowling the ocean. You can just see sort of the tips of the trees coming up from above the general tree line. So there does seem to be some kind of larger tree-like threats similar to the previous forest you marched through, except not these. It doesn't look. They don't look like the blood trees. These aren't flesh blood trees. These are just some kind of moving force within this forest. That I mean, you don't know. These could be threats. These could not be. These could just simply be treants that you should just avoid, or they might be something that has to do with the creeping undeath. And I'll say, since you rolled so high, you can actually just kinda see some of the structures in the mountain. Just below where it becomes too cloudy and foggy for you to see, you can see kind of the heading. You can see where you're heading.
Okay, so would this like solidify like even more if we ever had to make a check or like what
This
direction we're
would
going?
definitely give you an advantage on survival for Bruce figuring out where you are. I would say you need to use Lally Rock for that.
Okay.
But you would be able to, worst case scenario,
survival, but
say you got separated from Baron, or for some reason you needed to do survival on your own. This would give you an idea of where to start.
got it.
You wouldn't be so completely lost without Baron. No,
Got it.
Baron knows the right way to get into the city, which is also the value there. But if you needed to, you could find the city. Septimus. You got a 27, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a whole, 2025 is coming up, Septimus.
Yeah.
These
it
rolls.
is. Left all the got rid of the disease. Left it
Yeah.
in the city.
Yeah, your septitis is in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So, with a 27, you can definitely, like, you're being hyper vigilant. Like, perhaps you don't need to be as vigilant as you are, but you are turning your head, looking in the directions of any twig snap, any sound. And it's about an hour or two into the forest that you hear something in the distance that sounds a little heavier than a twig snapping or a branch shaking. It's actually a little uncomfortable because in the snowy wastes, the forest is creepily quiet. So any quick sound is startling for anybody. But Septimus, you could have swore you saw something larger moving in in between the trees in the snow, and suddenly you lose sight of it. And then you swear you hear the noises of a creature. It sounds a lot like a bear, actually, to you. You just hear kind of like the quiet, not roaring, but just sort of those general, like, exploratory sounds of a bear.
As we're moving through.
As you're moving through.
How fast are we going?
I imagine in these early parts of the journey, you guys aren't going super fast. You're getting your bearings as you're moving through the forest. You could certainly speed up, but there's definitely the sounds of a bear-like creature in the distance in the trees. Those of you with the 16, you would hear this as well, but you wouldn't catch the direction it's coming from. You would have definitely heard that there is something in the forest. Septimus, you can tell that this is coming from the right side of the road. And caught a very quick glimpse of the shape of it. And you didn't get enough to get a lot of details, but it certainly, all of your instincts are telling you it's a bear.
Okay. Beware of the right side. I think I saw something moving. You guys hear that rumbling? It sounds like a bear, but just keep an eye out. Maybe we should pick up the pace, try to lose it.
Or we can strike first.
Jacques has his crossbow out, but he goes, let's not try to stir up trouble if we don't need to. Let's just keep our heading. I doubt a single bear will want to mess with a party as large as ours.
Let's just remain watchful.
It's as you say, a single bear wouldn't want to mess with our party, that Baron would kind of enter the conversation. You would say, a wild polar bear certainly would not mess with you all. But if we're close to its den, it might be more aggressive. If it is a bear. Even if it's a...
Could it be if it's not a bear?
You all wandered in from the south and you saw the way that the creeping undeath twists nature. If it's something infected, it might be a little bit more erratic.
Perhaps like those trolls we fought.
Indeed.
Could also be an owl bear, slightly larger than a regular bear, a little more aggressive. Or an infected owl bear as well.
Oh dear. They have those?
Well, you sensed it. What do you think?
Now.
It seems to be keeping pace with us. I think we should pick it up for a little moment longer, see if we can elude it.
All right. We do that, Sean. We pick up the pace.
Okay, so you begin to move faster. Baron picks up the pace to lead the group of axebeaks. They all kind of keep up with each other. Bruce and Sal might get a little rocky in there, and Sal really needs to kind of like bolt down and hold on to make sure Bruce doesn't slip from under his arm out the back. As Septimus with that 27, you can hear the creature picking up its pace and running through the tree line. You can hear this, and all of you hear this now. Septimus, you can hear it as it gets closer, but whatever it is now like ripping through the tree lines, moving quickly. Like you hear snapping, breaking of branches, and now that it's chasing you, for lack of a better way to put it, it's big. It's bigger than like a brown bear or a polar bear even. It is larger than that. I would say it's not a large creature, but probably can up to a huge creature. Like so much so that all of you would hear this. At a certain point, you hear a snapping, and then you just hear the of a whole tree being knocked over.
Move faster.
You keep going, though, I imagine, trying to keep the pace going faster and faster.
Yeah, I'm looking for ways as we travel, if there's any like path off the beaten path that we might like be able to take in an emergency that can lead us to like, you know, either like a mountainous or a hilly area where we might be able to lose it due to, you know, terrain issues. Like, is there a place? Is there like does the forest get thicker at a certain point that we could head towards it?
The forest certainly has a variety of thickness to it. This thing is running through the forest, though. If anything, the forest is where you'd be more in danger because the axebeaks will be slowed down, and this thing seems to not be slowed down by the forest. You'd look and you'd think moving quickly and continuing the pace where we're going and trying to outrun it is much more likely to be the appropriate move.
Okay.
So
yeah.
And it's like almost like, and Baron shouts back to you all, essentially, we need to get out of its territory. We need to move faster. And he really whips his axebeak. And this is where, like, your axebeaks maybe break formation a little bit as they're going faster. Like Hershey speeds up and starts to get on pace with Baron in the front. Char is really like, you're really working Char to move at this pace for a long time. Char has good endurance, but he's also pulling Sal. I need Sal and Bruce to make athletics or acrobatics checks. Bruce, you will get advantage because Sal is holding on to you.
Athletics check, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, 26.
Nice.
I'm rolling high
Thanks,
today.
Sal. A nice 12.
All right, so there's a point when Bruce definitely like slips from under Sal's arm and is like, and like Bruce, for a second you maybe grab on to the side of the sled, but there's a moment where your face is like dragged in the snow, and Sal has to like reach back and grab you and pull you back into his arms while still holding on to the sled as it's like bumping up and down at this point, like you're riding waves, as there's just this line of chocobos running through the forest from whatever this thing is. And this is when Jacquette, as the person in the rear, you are the first one to see it, because it is certainly, if you keep your pace, you will outrun it. It is starting to slow down, and you actually see quick glimpses of it ripping, like pulling itself through the forest, like say a diver pulling itself through a coral reef, just grabbing onto things and pulling it. It's grabbing trees and using its strength to lunge itself through the trees. As you can see, this huge snowy owlbear. This is not just a bear. A large owlbear or just a bear. Like the large owlbears you're used to from the south or from wherever you're from aren't scary, but they're large. This is a huge owlbear that has really intense strength. But you keep moving, and you stay at this fast pace. And go ahead.
Is it within 80 feet of Jacquette?
Yes.
Back?
Yes.
All right. I think Jacquette would be like taking pot shots at it with the, with the weapon mastery of like crossbows that minus is 10 feet from its speed. So
Absolutely.
just trying to slow it in whatever way possible.
So go ahead and give me an attack roll. If there's anything else anyone would like to do, we can consider this a short skill challenge.
Can you technically use steady aim if you're mounted?
That's a really good question.
Because I'm not using my speed.
It's the chocobo
mount
speed.
I'm gonna.
Yeah. I know. For some reason, I find it easier to call them chocobos. But the axebeak, you technically, because you can move, the axebeak can move its full speed, then you can move your speed. So I would argue that you are considered stationary in that sense. But let me see if they're.
But are you steady?
The wording is only if you haven't moved during this term and after your speed is 0 until the end.
So essentially, you would lose your movement speed. So if for whatever reason you were dismounted, you couldn't stand up or move. You would be knocked to the ground and prone without even having the ability to stand up until your next turn. Or like say you use steady aim and shoot, and then the chocobo gets, or the axebeak gets attacked and you get dismounted, you can't move. But it actually creates an interesting meta of a rogue mounted combatant.
Mounted rogue.
Because they could always use steady aim and still move.
Same thing with a fighter and a horse. You know, if he's using...
Well, you can't steady aim. The whole point is...
Well, I mean, there's like the great weapon thing that I guess they got rid of that in the new version.
So, can I have advantage?
Yes. Yeah. we are ruling it, at least for now, unless I see something different. Because in my mind, the mount has its own actions, its own movement, so totally rules as written. That works.
All right, 24 to hit.
Yeah, that definitely hits. Is there anything anyone else would like to do as part of like this sort of skill challenge of escaping this huge owlbear?
I wanted to try to throw down a snare.
Excellent.
You might snare your friends, though.
I might.
That's true. You'd have to be careful with this.
Crossed.
You'd have to warn your friends that you're throwing that out there, or tell them to ride ahead of you, or tell Fyrn to slow down and let them ride ahead of you.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll yell to Fyrn to slow down a bit.
Yeah, so I'll like line Bruce up with Jaquette's horse, basically, so they're at the same pace.
So we've got the weapon mastery slowdown of the crossbow attack. We have a snare. Septimus, is there anything you want to do? Or you just keep riding?
Just gonna focus on riding.
Okay. Excellent.
I'm gonna try while I'm slowing down, I'm gonna cast a thaumaturgy to like our side to make it sound like basically like mimicking the I mean, I guess it can see us, but I'm gonna mimic the cries of like an axebeak in that direction, like maybe like even a smaller axebeak, so that way they might think it's like easier prey and head off that direction.
Sure. Okay. All right. So, with Jaquette's attack harrying it and slowing it down, you sending off a distraction in the distance, and Bruce's trap, altogether, this slows the creature down enough that you could completely outpace it and get away from it. Basically, what happens is, At a certain point, Jacquette's shooting at it, and it's pissing the animal off, but it's also slowing it down. And there's a moment where it kind of like pulls itself out of the tree line and kind of like rolls through like a bunch of branches and like kind of like tussles and almost like tripped and went cascading into the pathway, which is where you all can see it other than Bruce, unless Lollyrock is out. So you would be able to maintain that if you wanted to.
Yeah. You'd probably be switching back and forth. I imagine in the instant of placing the trap, he would have just been like, blurry eyed.
Yeah. Yeah. So and I'll say it's like it's at the moment that the creature barrels, like literally barrel rolls out of the forest into the path after the different shots at it, is when Bruce, you like drop down your trap. And then tell Fyrn to keep moving, to start moving faster again. And it's then that you see this creature slowly gets itself up from its side. And it's really frightening how large this thing is. It would have definitely been a tough fight, something you all would be capable of, but you would have been hit. You would have taken some hits. And the big thing is the axebeaks could have been pretty sufficiently killed by this thing. And that you figure is probably what this thing's interest in you is protecting not only its forest territory, but also like, if I can catch that giant axebeak that Fyrn's riding, that's food for a good chunk of time. But it gets up and starts chasing you guys, and that's when its paw goes right into Bruce's snare, and it just ties its arm up and kind of like drags it down. And I imagine just sort of like some more ropes wrap around its arms, and it tries to pull itself out, but it is stuck, and your axebeaks are able to carry you to the distance, and slowly it disappears. You no longer hear it, and the giant owl bear is gone. And your hearts maybe take a second to come back to resting, but you are safe from the owl bear.
I would say we should continue on for like another 10-15 to make sure we get some distance, and then bring the pace back down. Let the good axebeaks rest. Like, well done.
Sounds good.
No, I think I could, for sleeping arrangements, I can make another tower that's just a stable on the first floor.
That's true. You could. Yeah, where the first floor is the stable, and then...
I feel like that might smell pretty bad with all of us crammed in there.
No, we don't have to sleep in that one. I get two.
Wait, you would make 2 towers?
Pretty sure I can. Yep, not concentration.
The tale of 2 towers. A tale as old as time. It's synonymous with the return of the king.
I think you're gonna have to workshop that one.
The king being what's his name from campaign 1?
From what?
Heinrich?
Robert.
Yeah, Robert.
Robert.
King Robert.
Good old Bobby.
That king ain't right.
King ain't right. Oh, Bruce, I didn't realize if you cast it at higher levels, you can add floors to it.
Yeah, but
That's cool.
Our artificer only gets,
Oh, that's right. It's because you're an artificer. It's a little lower. Yeah, there's nothing in there that says you can't use another spell slot to make another one.
Right.
Because I was expecting it to say, like, if you cast it again, the first tower disappears.
Yeah, I would have thought so too, and then I read it again, and I was like,
that's pretty cool, actually. With enough time, you could really like prep like with enough spell slots, like a pretty significant little mini fortress.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, but after 15 or 20 minutes, you can feel that your axebeaks also are leaving their state of panic, because they were a little erratic after running from this. They were definitely, their heart rates were up, and they were struggling, but you can then kind of take it back down to a slower pace as you can move deeper into the forest. So when Baron would say, essentially that he wants to travel for as long as you can today, because there's a specific point he's trying to reach as quickly as possible. Basically as like a ground base before the movement and ascent up the mountain. There's a ruin. It'll take us 2 days to get there, but it is at the base of the mountain. It's a good place to start our ascension. It's not the cleanest path, but the cleanest path is marked by the most undead, leading up to Summalto. This path is a little more arduous, but it will get us to what I call the back door of Summalto. My way of getting in.
You know this area better than the rest of us, so take your word for it.
It's a little harsher, like I said, but it will be safer. So we're working harder to feel a little bit more secure. It is quicker to go the other way, but there will most likely be more undead to encounter. So I do leave it up to you, but my recommendation is we go the safer route.
A lot of us is unknown. I think we go the safer route as well.
Safer is better.
I don't know.
Yep.
Let's spit in the face of fate, Let's go the dangerous route.
There's no sanctuary in this area.
I'm joking. Let's do the safe route. Come on. I was just trying to lighten the mood.
We will have to camp out. Well, I suppose you have your tower, but we will be in the wild, so to speak, for at least one night before we reach this ruin. So, let's move quickly. Find a good place to step off the road. Go as far as we can tonight. And then rest. And you're able to do this. Most of this first leg of the journey is true wilderness, like as opposed to this like undead territory. There is occasional sounds in the distance that do creep you all out. At least one point, somebody's axebeak steps in the snow, and a zombie does lurch out. But it is something that you all could easily take care of, and you are never in a situation where there is like a horde of them. It's kind of like there's like a zombie who was buried underneath the snow in a blizzard and has just been there dormant until something stepped in front of it, and it was basically just went and just went for a bite, but isn't able to really deal a lot of damage to the hard skin of the talons of the axebeak. If anything, at first, like, you guys don't even need to like shoot it with your magic or your crossbows. The axebeak literally stomps on its skull. But this general area seems a little dormant, almost to a point of discomfort. Like, you're expecting there to be more danger in the first leg of the journey. But soon enough, the sun is setting, and we reach around 4:30 when it starts to get concerningly dark. Would you all like to keep pushing into the evening or stop now?
I mean, I think we're following Baron's.
Okay. If you just want to follow Baron's pace, then he would keep moving for at least another hour or two. But he's constantly checking in with you guys to be like, do you want to keep going? He's kind of keeps reminding you all that he is helping you here, and while he knows paths, he's also used to going on his own. So he is just giving you the courtesy of being like, you tell me if you want to stop, but I'll keep going as long as I can.
Keep going until you think we'll tucker these animals out.
I'd say we can push them another hour or two, and then we should stop
Let's
for their sake.
Good.
So it becomes a little bit more concerning at night. You do start to notice in the distance will-o-wisps appearing out of the trees. Like you'd be looking and there'll just be like a knot in a tree that a little will-o-wisp comes out of. and starts to wander through the tree line. And Baron actually tells everyone to slow to an even slower pace and to grab the blankets out of the packs on your axebeaks to kind of drape over them. That helps conceal them at night a little bit. And so the light doesn't catch their feathers as much. But eventually you find the axebeaks are too tired and you can't keep going. Can I get everyone to give me a wisdom saving throw real quick?
Oh, let's.
Yeah.
My God, I'm on fire today.
I think I traded with Persico.
Yeah, that.
First go, what'd you get?
27.
Again, my man. Although I have asked for a lot of wisdom-based checks, and you should do good at those.
Listen, I'm just saying, regardless of the modifiers, I rolled like a 2 18s, a 19, and like a 17.
Yeah. Better knock on some wood there, buddy.
Some particle board.
It counts. Bruce, what'd you get?
14.
You Fyrn.
15.
Jacquette.
7.
You.
Baron didn't do well. Baron doesn't need to do this actually. Saskia rolled an 8 on the dice, so I imagine her
You guys are gonna get eye
wisdom saving
frenzy.
throw isn't. So good to know.
Well, she has a +5, so
So 13.
13.
Wow, she has a +5 on wisdom saves.
Warlocks get.
I didn't realize warlocks got wisdom. That's cool. All right, so another hour goes by, and Baron starts to pull you all off just to the side of the road, and begins to dismount and begins to tie the axe beaks off to a tree. Think this is good enough, far enough. Allow us to reach the ruins that I want to camp out in tomorrow by a little bit into the evening tomorrow. So let's set up camp. So, Bruce, you can set up your 2 towers if you'd like at this point, your stable tower and your
I
people
shall.
tower.
While he's doing that,
Mhm.
how big are your towers, Bruce?
They're not very big.
Very small,
they
actually.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping
no,
for Sean to give me a little, little something so I can make them a little bigger.
You gotta
But
get
no,
another
they're-
spell slot.
They're
Yeah.
yeah,
They're what?
100 feet, 100 square feet,
Oh,
10 feet top.
oh 10 feet by 10 feet.
Yeah. So
Okay.
just a cube.
Yeah,
Um,
each floor is a 10 by 10 cube.
There's 2 floors.
While he does that,
Mhm.
Seppi is going to do another divine intervention.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
and
God.
What?
Nothing, I just realized what you could do here.
Well,
What are you doing? What are you doing?
he's gonna tell Bruce where he's gonna where he should set things up, and he's gonna draw a circle and point to the center and cast Hallow.
Yes. I thought you were gonna do this.
Hallowed be thy name.
Very nice.
Love it.
Hallowed ward, yeah. Oh yeah, you can choose undead.
Yes.
So it is, how big is it?
60 feet.
Oh, nice.
It's
That is
big.
literally-
it's real big.
But it's also just literally perfect for your rest.
yeah.
And it matches as long as your tower. Wow.
Yeah.
Very
Look
nice.
at me being useful.
Now, this is why people state that the divine
They don't like the new
intervention
Identify Convention.
is not just an
Oh.
action that it still takes the full casting time.
Yeah. This does put my original ruling into question on whether or not I think it should be how we continue to do it. Because Hollow is a 24-hour casting time. It's not a. I just realized I was reading it wrong. That's not the duration. That's how long it takes to cast. But it also lasts
Duration is
until
forever.
dispelled. Yeah.
Oh.
So I think
Where it gets weird.
for the purposes of today, because I need to think about this, I'm going to allow you to do this. Depending on how I feel about it and how we're going to move forward with Divine Intervention, I might err on the side of it will take the casting time to cast these things. Or I might err on the side of like things like this do not last forever with an instantaneous cast. But I have to think about it because this is you're right, Stefan. The last one I didn't care as much about because it was an hour. This one is 24 hours and permanent. So for the purposes of tonight, this land is hollowed. Zenos, what is it? What does it look like?
I was an extra good boy. I had extra good boy Machina points.
You did have some extra good Machina points stacked up that you may have just spent tonight. But what does it look like when you hollow this 60-foot sphere in this forest with the blessed magic of Machina?
That outer perimeter that I kind of channeled out will light up and rays of that light blue glow will come from the snow, illuminating a bit of the area. And then from them, glyphs, kind of like, not binary, but kind of in that vertical setup, like from the Matrix.
Yeah.
But like the glyphs that are on Sal's body
Totally.
and chassis and stuff that represent Machina kind of just go up like one at a time.
I love that.
As the area feels like it's been sealed.
Yeah, like these single file vertical lines of code, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's these magical equation glyphs.
Right.
Because those glyphs all almost represent a mathematical understanding of magic.
Right.
I love it. There is a sense of calm over the group as the towers go up in the circle, and the circle has this very dim blue light around it that is peaceful, and you feel a sense that the undead cannot disturb your rest here. All right.
Good
So-
stuff.
You then can all gather inside to rest for the evening. And Baron immediately tends to the axebeaks in the other tower, and then comes back in shortly afterwards, and begins to prepare some of the food that he has. You find that Baron actually seems to enjoy like getting food prepared and sharing food and cooking even though there's, I imagine, because there's limited space, the kitchen is not the kitchenware of the tower is not particularly dynamic. I imagine it's basically just a fire that you have a pot over.
Yeah, it's like there's just one pan and it's a wok, multi-use.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those they're like ovens or like stovetops that are meant specifically for woks? Like a lot of Asian households have them. Those are pretty cool. Like I want one.
The wok.
I do too. You find Baron actually leaves for a little while, and is out ranging a little bit. And he comes back about an hour later, with a fistful of these different like roots and herbs that he's collected. And you see he takes the wok, I imagine this kitchen would be a great place for Bruce's original alchemy jug. For this, but since we don't have that, he does take out a little bit of cooking fats that he has, and he just starts to like almost like stir fry these herbs and veggies that he found outside, while he's also breaking up hardtack and jerky and putting it into some boiling water to make a quick stew with some stir fried veggies for everyone to eat.
Yeah, if we have a little bit of downtime before bed, Fyrn's going to continue working on translating that infernal document that seemed to be like some sort of... that was given to him by Bruce. That seemed to be some sort of legal document. He's just, taking his time with it and making sure he has every word, correct. And I mean, I don't know how long it is, but I think you told me that it was going to take some time.
Yeah, give me an intelligence check, a straight intelligence check.
Okay. Nat 20. Let's go.
All right. So you make some significant progress on it this evening, and you start to discern a little bit of its meaning. It seems as though this is some infernal legalese protecting something. There's like steps. You can see that it's starting to slowly eke out steps to essentially bypass the protection of something. One could say it's, akin to the code to a vault, one could say, or a map of a trapped area is sort of the vibe that each of the steps is getting to. You're kind of like getting a quick 101 lesson in the infernal legal system by reading this and how their contracts work a little bit.
So when you say like it's steps to bypass the protection of something, and that you gave like a bunch of different examples, we don't know what it's trying to actually accomplish, but I could kind of infer from the actions. Is it like get a certain item? Like, is it like a witch's brew sort of thing, or is it like a action thing?
It's to
like
acquire
identify
something.
what. Okay.
It's to acquire something for sure. You guess that's going to take you 2 more evenings of deciphering to at least have like a written down translation of it. That then you can collectively discern through the legal jargon of what it actually is protecting and leading to.
Understood.
But there's definitely something at the end of the rainbow that is this legal document. But as you're all enjoying the stir-fried herbs and root vegetables that Baron harvested with some boiled jerky and hardtack, go ahead.
I wanted to do... So I got all this chain now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And slowly trying to make a device that could ground some aerial folk. I think what Bruce wants to do is a little like make something on a smaller scale as like a test model.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on me making like a musket? And this is not like just after this one night, but like start building a musket that's like a hook shot.
I mean, you do certainly have all this chain, and you do certainly have strap.
I also have a number of chain that's not thick chain too.
Oh, you do. Okay.
I do.
So I mean, if you have chain and you have scrap that you can repurpose to build the body of this thing,
yeah,
it would be a simple trigger and tension device, I imagine. Yeah. So I would definitely think that, Bruce, you could work throughout a couple of nights to create a little model of what you intend to do, and then have like a quick little like hook shot essentially.
Yeah.
Because you also have enough scrap to create a hook, too.
Yes. Yeah. I should.
And you can magically create any tools you want, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so you can create a mobile, like you can turn your tools into the blacksmith tools that allows you to create a mobile furnace to mold things. So you would be able to do the types of work you would need to repurpose the scrap. And like make a hook out of like the hunk of spider leg you have from the machina and the so yeah, I would say that's definitely doable. You would just have to dedicate your evening time before your long rest.
Okay.
So you'd have a couple hours each night to work on this.
All right, cool. And do you have should I roll every night to see like how fast?
We'll do rolls for it. We'll do tool check rolls. And victories will progress it. Not passing it will either have middling progress or no progress. And something like a nat 1 might even set you back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
Give it a roll.
Go for it. Let's get the tool check.
So I've got expertise in this.
Excellent.
Tool use, luckily. Oh, wow. Okay, that's a 31.
We'll say that's definitely a success. I'll say, Bruce, you can mark down, for this purposes, for tracking it, mark down 2 tally marks.
Okay.
So you've gotten 2 victories out of on this.
You
You don't know
something
how
you
out
haven't
of,
decided yet?
It's something I haven't decided yet. All I know is I'm giving you 2 right now.
Okay. All right.
So this could be something you could have done tomorrow night, or it might take you a couple more days.
Okay.
The other thing to remember, if you get like a nat 1, you could potentially go back 1 on these tallies. Although with that expertise, it's basically a nat 1. It sounds like is the only way for you to really kind of fail at this.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time, which is kind of like the slogan of Bruce. It's just a matter of time before I've reverse engineered your device or built a new one.
Correct.
Okay. So Bruce is tinkering with his tools, with his cylinder and his chain and pieces of an old spider leg. Is there anything else anyone would like to do specifically with their downtime this evening? Fyrn is decoding infernal script. Whereas everyone else just kind of relaxing.
Just chilling.
I think Jacquet's gonna just level up.
Oh yeah, I forgot you could just
You want me to
declare
roll
that
for
as an
that,
action.
or- yeah.
Roll a d100. No. Roll a d20. Whatever you roll is the level you are now.
Nat 1.
Nat 1. Yeah.
I'll do that.
Saskia's like,
I'll
sorry,
take that right
Jacquet, you're too weak for us. Gotta leave.
That's
Well,
when
yeah, I've been playing
that's
for
when Ro visits you in your dream.
Yeah.
Would you like to level back up? Anyway, as the dinner time and the downtime is progressing and whatnot, Septimus, you get a little ring in your ears. That just kind of like catches your attention before a voice enters into your head. You recognize the voice immediately, or maybe it takes you a second, and then because you're not really thinking about anyone but the people around you, kind of in who could talk to you in your head. Is you would hear, Septimus, I have urgent requests for you in iron and mana. And after he says this full sentence, you catch this is Sigil.
Okay. It's been a while since I heard him, so
Yeah.
Oh. I won't respond immediately. Let him finish.
I apologize. I believe you saw my eyes the other day. But I needed to see that you were still alive. And I'm watching you right now. will you invite me into your sanctuary to speak with you? I won't be there for real.
Yes.
But I can have a
I
longer
figured as much.
conversation with you. And like you can tell he sent a second message ascending because you didn't respond quick enough.
Yeah.
And he thought you might be
It's like,
hesitant.
I was curious as to what those scrying orbs were. It's a little relieving to know is from a friend. Of course. Come speak to me.
Another sending comes through. Do please let your companions know that I'll be arriving shortly. I don't want to scare them. I don't need a bolt to the face from Jacquet. It would more likely be Fyrn's hammer to my face.
Allow me 5 minutes to get everybody settled.
As you wish.
Everyone? All? I just heard from Sigil. Seems he reached out to me through a sending spell. And it turns out it was him that was looking at you three the other night, those scrying orbs. Says he was curious if we were still alive, and he's going to appear in some way in front of us because he has something urgent he wishes to tell us, or a request from us.
Why did he only scry on those three, though?
Well, I understand the spell correctly. It involves you to channel into the person's wisdom. So maybe you and I had higher fortitude against the spell.
Ah, didn't even notice.
I like to imagine during this whole thing, Bruce is like surrounded with like a circle of scrap all around him, and he's just like picking pieces up and being like, not right.
Precisely like a child with Legos trying
Yes.
to on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm too smart for
Too smart for scrying as he's banging two metal pieces together. A perfect demonstration of wisdom versus intelligence.
Yeah.
So yeah, unless anyone else has anything to say, a couple minutes later, you would see the coals of the fire beneath the pot of stew begin to burn really, really bright to the point when it starts to fill the room with light. As you can see, sort of a couple of them roll out of the fireplace along the floor, leaving little soot marks on the stone floor before they kind of like gather together, and sort of a very small tornado of fire forms up into the humanoid shape of Sigil. Where
Help
you don't
me on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It is very much so like this, as it is a projected image into the space. And you can see he has like you don't see details, but you generally can see he still has like kind of like a cloak. And he does sort of immediately kind of cross his arms. He has like even like the cane in one hand that he's holding, that he then eventually puts down and walks forward. And just says, Iron and mana. In the flesh, still alive. It had been some time since I heard from you, and then I had to confirm for myself when our mutual friend, Lucas, began asking for books.
I'm sure the stories of our demise were rampant across the city. Apologies we were unable to let you know of our safety before our regrettably embarrassing retreat.
It's at that point that Baron comes walking inside as he was outside checking on the axebeaks in the stables. And he walks in and he just sort of like very casually walks in and just sort of like, oh, the axebeaks are just having a delightful time, Bruce. Really. And then he stops and looks and says, oh. Care to introduce me to your fiery friend?
Baron Sigil Baron. He's an associate of ours from Hyven. He works at the Academy for Elemental Studies. We've worked with him in the past.
And Baron just kind of slowly closes the door and leans his back against it. Obviously, immediately distrustful of the glowing entity in the middle of the room, given his past with glowing entities and patrons and whatnot. So he just kind of like nods and then nods to the shape and then like kind of settles in the corner furthest from the light of this entity. Because it is quite like, if you didn't know Sigil was coming and who he is, it is a divine presence almost in the way that he's forming in this fire. Spiritual in a lot of ways. Yes, well. Good to meet you, Baron of the North. Friend of Iron and Manners is a friend of mine. Yes, your demise did leave its mark on Hyven, and much has happened since you left. I won't go into too many details, but there is a challenger to the Commodore's status.
What do you mean by that? Challenging the Commodore's status as Commodore, or trying to take the role of Commodore away from her?
The laws of the governor dictate that any member of the crew can challenge with enough support the captain. And there is a challenger to Hyven and Ezha's captain. Many don't believe the individual is who they say they are. Because of the history of Hyven, when someone claims to be Mr. Greaves in the flesh, few believe you. But there is a man who claims such a name.
So the old bastard finally came out of hiding.
Wait. But what's different about this time?
What do you mean, what's different?
Well, you said that, when people made claims previously about being Mr. Greaves, nobody really believed him. Now, all of a sudden he's here, and now people believe him?
The right people and enough people are backing the claim. It doesn't necessarily mean they believe him.
Off the top of your head, do you know some of the folks backing him around town?
The Wolfmaster is backing the claim. The certain academic types are backing the claim.
Could you expand on that? Certain academic types. Are you talking about fucking Cadamus? Is it Cadamus? Of course it's fucking Cadamus.
Cadmus is backing the claim.
Pinstriped fuck.
What business would he have with someone like Mr. Greaves?
Cadamus is involved in some kind of illegal import scheme. He's been importing something. I couldn't quite get the information from his office, but he's into something dark with Mr. Greaves' syndicate.
Mm-hmm.
Many are upset with the new rules the Commodore is trying to put into place, and are genuinely upset with the Commodore as an absent ruler until this last few months. Most long-term academics of the Academy are not backing this Mr. Greaves because, of course, the Commodore has long invested in the education system within the Academy. But I will give some credence to the words of the criers in the streets that education is for the privileged. And that money, that silver, could perhaps be to serve the streets of Hyven. Mr. Greaves, or this person, is trying to claim he, better than her, represents the people of Hyven.
Has he shown himself in public?
Yes.
Can you describe him?
He's buttoned up, wears a contemporary suit. He's a human. Simple man. Older than I expected, if this is truly Mr. Greaves. Mustachioed. Talks very confidently. It reminds me of you a bit, Jacquette. In the quickness of his word.
Choose to take the compliment.
But he surrounded himself with many influential people in Hyven. People who represent the dock workers, people who represent some of the other industries of the region.
That bastard! Jacquet gets up as he throws whatever he's working on. This is exactly what I was planning to do. It was going to be a long game, sure, but it was going to be a short game. I had Winifred in my back pocket. Yes, blackmail maybe isn't the strongest connection, but I had it, and I was working on you guys up at the Academy. I was going to get people within his syndicate. I was going to get the De Leon brothers, and it all fell to shit. Of course he beat me to the punch. See, this is why we can't leave the city.
Boy, I died.
Yeah. Well. Jacques sits down, very clearly, a little, like, there is shame on his face at forgetting that Septimus had died because of his, Jacquet's, insistence on confrontation.
There are many at conflict factions within Hyven right now. There are many who have taken up. The best way to put it is vigilantism. I wouldn't call them copycats of Iron and Mana necessarily, but adventuring parties are sprouting up. Perhaps attempting to acquire that title Iron and Mana held as sanctioned official adventurers. Some of them are just naive mercenaries. Some really believe they are bringing much needed law to the lawlessness of Hyven. Some have died. But this is not why I come to speak with you. Though I believe many would welcome Iron and Mana's return as a force for good, as we've seen you before. No, I have, if you would accept, a little quest for you.
A quest. I don't know how much you were able to see, but we are not very near Hyphen.
Oh, I know where you are. That's why I ask you for help here. This would not take you off your current journey north. In fact, it's along the way.
Oh.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you plan to go to the ruins of Summalto.
Yes. We do.
There's a lot of going-ons in the world right now that have affected my own missions, my own endeavors. I was doing small work when I met you. Little things to help those around me. With the current upheavals in the social structure of Hyven, I am in need of not hiding in my library anymore. There are places in Summalto, places of power, that I just ask you to visit.
And what's there?
If you would, these places will have altars. And I just simply ask that you light a candle at these altars.
And for what purpose?
Honor. Honoring the spirit of the empty halls.
Can I roll an insight on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna give myself +5 to whatever I roll here. Also, 26.
Okay, and what are you specifically looking to insight?
It just like, is he telling everything? Does there feel like there's an ulterior motive other than just honoring?
So I would say with a 25, you said?
26. Yeah.
26?
Yeah, could I possibly like help with this by saying something along the lines of like the empty halls? Do you speak of the death that plagues this land? Do you know of Einso and his hound?
So before he answers you, Bruce, it's hard not to take what he just said and believe that there is ulterior motives to it, because it's just too, especially for your mind, nonsensical. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
what the fuck does that
absolutely.
do to help anything?
Right. You're all the way over there. Why doesn't
But he's also always been this way a little bit. So I think with your insight, you don't detect like malicious ulterior motives towards you, but esoteric ulterior motives that are specific to the weirdness that is Sigil as a person.
also the short answers too, like not
exactly.
Yeah.
But as you ask him about Einso and his hound, Sigil looks to you and cocks his head and says, I am aware of much of what is happening to the Northlands. Not as clearly as maybe you understand them now that you have spent time there. But I have heard this name before, Einso. I have texts that I will be sharing with your friend, Lucas. The only reason I'm even reaching out to you is because he revealed to me basically everything of your journey north.
All
He
right.
apologized deeply for it, but he is not a difficult nut to crack.
In his defense, I don't think we were very clear about secrecy here.
We will venture to those ruins, and if we see these places of power you mentioned, we will do our best to light a candle to honor whatever, if you think that will help. But
like,
in exchange, we will need you to do more research for us.
I will say, Septimus, the task that he's asking you to do does remind you of old elementalist rituals of honoring the spirits. It wouldn't be hard to mistake him as just being a spiritual person who believes that there's an imbalance out there and there needs to be some kind of offering to the spirits.
And
like,
that's
that would
kind of
be
what
the colloquial, like what Fyrn definitely, what Septimus you might infer from this. You know, Bruce, you don't trust anyone, so you assume ulterior motives. Jacques, you might think it's mumbo jumbo. It's always been mumbo jumbo from some sigil. You know, whatever you think there. But it would be very easy just to view this as an old man who has some traditional beliefs about honoring the spirits and the fortune that can come from that.
What are the odds that lighting a few candles are going to bite us in the ass, really?
So, wait. But what are you gaining out of this?
I'm gaining.
Because what if we just light them and then, how do you know whether or not we did?
Well, I'm putting a bit of trust in you.
So it won't, if we light it, it won't have any effects or introduce.
I'd so and his hound. There's also a creature known as the Harbinger.
Harold.
that serves him, perhaps. And just recently we heard of another, maybe unrelated, perhaps unrelated, but overall still important. We've heard mention of a group called the Pale Covenant, as well as a Lord Raven.
My personal theory is Lord Raven is just the Herald's original name, but I don't know where I got that from. But we also understand that there is supposedly the corpse of a dead god that is the cause of this creeping death in the north. I'm not sure what god that could be, and that was our request to Lucas. So, if you could assist him in researching that and maybe how to end the dead god? If that makes sense, or really how to deal with it, because fuck if we know what to do.
I can give Lucas access to my deeper vaults of knowledge in exchange for your services here.
Perfect.
And if you are successful in lighting all of the candles that I request, and you can see in his hand, the fiery hand appears, actual candles that he then puts the hand down on the table, and you can see they appear there. There are 4 of them there. When I reach back out with the information I've learned, I will also give you the details of where these old halls are in Summalto.
Fyrn's gonna take the candles.
I know that this may seem strange, especially to those of you with less convictions on the spiritual aspects of our world. But I promise you, what I am endeavoring for is something that I hope will help you. You must practice a little faith in me, as I am practicing that faith with you now.
I see no reason not to agree to this. If I just may ask one last question. What's your ultimate goal here, Sigil? You say you don't want to hide in your libraries anymore?
For a long time, I thought my place was in these halls, hidden away. I thought the world did not need me out there. The more I have hidden myself, the more untethered, the more chaos I've seen. And you see, like, there's almost, it's hard to see because he also has the mask on, but you can tell that there's a trail off there where he's sort of middle distance staring and then shakes his head. I believe there's a place for me again, outside of these halls, to help, to guide, that I have ignored since I arrived here. I am not well enough to do that right now. As he leans against the cane. There will be more work available upon completion in your return. Work that I will reward you greatly for. And I am sure, and he looks to Jacquet, you have your own work to be done here in Hyven upon your return.
Believe you me, I'll keep us all very, very busy. And we could use all the help we can get from people we can trust. Jacquet puts out a hand.
And he does go and bring the fiery hand to your hand, and it does not burn you. It just feels a little tingly and warm as he does.
You do see that Jacquet tenses and almost flinches, but goes for it. Oh, I thought that was going to burn more.
Oh, this is a simple illusion. Many of... I'm not going to get into the esoteric nature of the magic, but...
It's okay, it'd go right over my head anyways.
Ever more appreciated each day, Iron and Mana. I am happy to see you alive and well. Even if there are a few pots replaced. As he looks over at Septimus.
Oh, because of the...
I understand that you have the ability to cast Sending. He looks over at Bruce.
Yes, I do.
If you need
Do
to
you want
reach
an
out.
update after? Okay.
If you... I would like for an update, but hopefully I will know. So, feel free to reach out at any time.
Same goes for you. If you find out more information about this,
I will certainly have a report for you, so to speak, in the coming days, before you arrive to the streets of Summalto. It will take you a bit, from my understanding of your position, to climb the sides of the mountain.
Another request, sorry. No more scrying eyes, please. It's a bit of an invasion of privacy. And if you're doing it...
Or at least send the sending first, so we know it's you.
Exactly. Thank you, Fyrn.
A fair request. I need to scry on you to be able to send this projection to your position. I can only send it to places I've seen before or are currently seeing. So I will reach out ahead of time.
Thank you.
yeah, you don't want to see Fyrn take a shower or a bath.
And then you
Wrong
could...
moment.
There's like a... You can tell Sigil like tenses up, as in, that may have happened already.
Wait a minute. I was taking a piss earlier. Did you?
Well, Iron and Mana, I wish you good luck on your venture into the Summalto, and I hope that our next time speaking will be good news for you and myself.
Yeah, toodaloo, perv. Just kidding. But, like, really, come on.
I did not see anything inappropriate. Good night, Ian and Madam.
Good night, Sigil. We'll be in touch.
And then the form of him kind of swirls and disappears into the illusion that it was. As you have a little bit of an update on Hyven and a new task from a friend.
Candles? Really?
And candles. Yeah, some candles. These
Oh
are
my
not the I think Alex, you see a candle and you always think it's the candle that Timber had.
Yeah. That was,
But anyway, seeing Sigil might bring up memories of the last conversations you all had with Sigil before leaving. Thinking back to the party you went to with him and to that mission that you didn't do for him the last time you were there. Jacquette's party. Septimus, you might think about that sort of interesting sparring of like theory that you two were talking about outside of the party. We were talking about the difference between order and chaos, and how Sigil seemed to imply that order and chaos are somehow not opposites, like Ullman typically believe.
Mm-hmm.
But you are able to rest, though, for the rest of the evening, and get in your long rest before starting the long journey on the next day.
Yay.
Which I think we're going to call it for tonight, and pick it up next week. We can get Shannon back here for the journey to the ruins and then the ascent up the mountain to the entrance or the back door of Summalto. So you're basically two challenging steps away from the city itself. All right, that is it for us tonight, folks. We are going to sign off there. Hope you enjoyed hanging out with us tonight or wherever you are in the world. We'll see you around. If you're around, I am trying to stream again on Thursday nights. I did so last week, so please go ahead and feel free to join me on Thursday nights. I'll be sending out lives, announcements. We'll be doing the typical Relaxing in Paradise stuff, maps, cartography, mini painting, terrain design, as well as some gaming. We might see some of our friends here hop on and join me from time to time, especially if we're gaming a little bit. You might see Josh, Shannon's husband, pop in when he finally gets the Valheim servers back up.
Ooh.
Patiently waiting.
Where I had a goal of going in and trying to make Hyven.
Whoa.
In Valheim.
Water. It's a lot of stone.
It's stone.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe we'll try that out, or maybe at least we'll make the dock area of Hyven or the main street of Hyven. That could be a fun little
I don't know
project.
if they have basalt cliffs in.
They don't.
It might be easier in Enshrouded if you wanted to do it there.
It actually would probably be easier in Enshrouded. I haven't played Enshrouded though. Anyway, good night. We'll see you all later.